It's a historic day, folks. SpaceX successfully rescuing 4 astronauts stranded in the first ever polar orbit. Wait. Well, I'm being told they weren't actually stranded. But anyways, apparently this is a show about oil filters? And almost $14 million. EJ gets me. Somebody roll the intro while I figure out what I'm supposed to talk about here.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with Planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Yes, it's time for the Flame Trench. It's our weekly talk show where we sit down and we give you a piece of our minds. Lots to talk about this week. Kicking it off, I'm John Galloway for NSF. It says it down that way somewhere like that. But y'all know the drill. We're going to be answering some questions. We're going to be talking about all the different news. And the best thing about doing this show live and unscripted is that news can drop literally seconds before we go live and we can still cover it. We're just going to talk about it if you got the reference to almost $14 billion in the intro there. What do we have? We have Fram 2. We've got some Starbase updates. We've got some investigations being closed. Starliner T to go through apparently. ESAR launches out of Norway, and I'm literally scrolling through the list, reading everything. It seems like enough to talk about. What do y'all think? Like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that we should be able to get through? Please welcome to the show, here beside me, Mr. EJ. EJ, I was still doing the intro, and then it's like, EJ's on the screen all of a sudden. What's up, dude?
I noticed the camera went on and everything. It was great. How you doing?
How do you feeling about oil filters these days?
I don't personally. I'm not really a fan of that particular orange brand of oil filters.
More of a percolator guy, like.
I mean, Wix or
Wix.
Motorcraft.
Motorcraft.
Just saying.
All right.
Not an official endorsement, you know.
Good deal. Y'all know EJ. EJ is on these shows more than I am. Longtime friend, streamer over on Twitch. Probably live on Twitch right now. What's up, Twitch? How y'all doing? But EJ.
He saw us, chat.
Wait, what?
He saw us. He mentioned that. Chat mentioned. Wait, what?
Us.
Sorry.
EJ's a longtime friend and has been holding down these shows quite a bit. So, EJ, we look forward to getting a piece of your mind in the Flame Trench today. Also, not physically or literally.
Oh,
Anyways,
okay.
Yeah. Also on screen here today is Mr. Sawyer. Sawyer, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. It's getting the old Twitch gang back together. All of us from the old Kerbal days of Twitch, 2013, 14, 15 era. And
like
Das, I know you're not on here very often, so just to inaugurate you with the latest iterations of the Flame Trench, Long March 5.
I see that. I know the Long March 5 thing. I feel like I'm not
March 5.
like in
Long
on
March
that.
5.
Maybe I'll pick
Long
it up
March
over the
5.
course of the show. Good lord. Yes. So that's the drill, folks. We're going to be reading some chat. I got it over on this monitor here. It's pointing this way. We're going to be answering some questions. EJ, if stuff comes in over on Twitch, grab us stuff from Twitch as well. We'll be doing super chats like the whole shooting match here during the Flame Trench, but we do have a lot to talk about, so we should jump right in. The next topic, or I guess the topic we're going to kick it off with, is illustrated by a single bullet point here on my little document that makes me not forget what I'm supposed to mention. Defense.gov. Dropping some contract information. Do we put anybody's name on this one, or are we just going to dive in and read this thing?
We can just dive in if you guys want. So go ahead, man.
No, go ahead. Folks,
All
we're
right.
looking at some contracts that are just announced, like literally came out just a few minutes before we went live, right, EJ?
Yeah, at the last second, this became. I became aware of this, and I was like, you know what, we should probably put this in the flame trench, like right at the top. So this is a contract award from defense.gov. So what this contract award is for National Security Space Launch, or NSSL for short. This is phase 3, lane 2 right here. So this is a huge procurement of services from the Department of Defense, from Uncle Sam, to launch providers to launch satellites that, do something up in space. What do? Don't know.
Whatever
don't
they
know,
want
don't
them
care. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. There you go. Did you guys get the memo? Jeez. All right. So the crazy thing is like, all right, there's some big numbers getting thrown around here. So to give you the cliff notes here, once again, this is for launch services procurement. So this is 5.9 billion with a B, tres comas, all right, to SpaceX, right? And then a little bit below that, you have ULA, or United Launch Services LLC. It's pretty much the same thing. 5.3 billion
with a B,
right? With a B. And then here's the curveball. At the very bottom, you have Blue Origin with a $2.3 billion firm fixed price IDIQ, indefinite delivery requirements contract. Blue Origin has got a Department of Defense contract for New Glenn. There's a lot of money being thrown around here. This is a huge infusion into the commercial launch services industry. Very, very much a big deal.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that all 3 of these rockets are reusable in some way. I think that's another very pertinent point. I mean, people are going to be like, Vulcan is smart. Hey, it still counts. All right? Still counts. What's up?
Did I do the math correctly? I mean, 5 point something, right? Plus 5.9, 5.3. Yeah, 5.9 plus 5.366. You round it to 5.4 if you want. Plus 2.
So we're at 10.2.
386, 2.4 basically. 12.2. So just south of $13 billion. Did I get that right?
Oh, that's all.
Close.
It's not 14. It's only 13. Who cares then?
Well, no. It was 11.2 because 5.9 plus 5.4 is 11 point whatever. We missed $1 billion in there, EJ. Yeah. So
no comment.
That is a significant amount of money. I mean, you're looking at SpaceX, right? It doesn't put in like a per launch cost in there, but that's how many launches do you get from SpaceX for $5.9 billion? Like 100 launches, 50 launches? I didn't quick math that. Somebody quick math that. And going down to United Launch Alliance, $5.3 billion. What do you get from ULA? Like 3 launches for that? Chuckle. Ouch. And then Blue Origin, who knows how much you get from Blue Origin, but I don't actually know.
Maybe 3.5, about
3.5. In any event, Sawyer, how do you feel about this? Is this like a huge deal? It feels like a massive infusion, but does this match with previous awards or what?
I mean, I think the biggest thing with this is the fact that you now have the 3 providers in there. We're talking SpaceX, we're talking ULA, and now Blue Origin. I think that's the honestly big surprise of this one. Because when you think of Phase 3, you think of these really big contracts. These are the big, super expensive. We really don't want these to blow up because that would be massively horrendous, more so than usual, satellites in these contracts. So I think that's the biggest thing here. But also interesting of note for all of these, I'm not sure if that means that that's where all of these spacecraft will be built or if this implies where future vehicles might be launched. But it does say for all of them, and in particular for Blue Origin, that work will be performed in Merritt Island, Florida, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Kennedy Space Center, and Vandenberg Space Force Base, California.
Blue Origin out of Vandy.
I don't know if that means that's where they're going to be working on the satellites, or if that means potential Blue launch site on the West Coast. But because of note, ULA's also has Centennial, Colorado. SpaceX's has Hawthorne, California, where each of their headquarters are, in addition to the Cape and Vandy. But yeah, that mentions Vandenberg Space Force Base, interestingly.
Interesting. Huh. So, going through all this, I mean, I think that the biggest news is that it's a huge, like EJ said, a huge cash injection into launch services. It's got, I want to be fair to all of the other launch providers that are also working on rockets, but if you had to name like big three people with three big rockets, it's got SpaceX, of course, in there. That would be crazy if it didn't. And it has Blue Origin. They've got a successful launch under their belt, even though it didn't land. It did put a payload into orbit the first time, something that Starship hasn't done yet, right? And it's, of course, got ULA in there, ULA with Vulcan, and Vulcan has a successful launch under its belt as well. So do y'all think that those successful launches partially drove this? Like if Blue Origin hadn't gotten that first launch in, would they even be on this list? What do you think, EJ?
Yeah, dude. Sorry, I didn't mean to start with yeah, definitely. I think that has something to do with it. I think Blue was under a lot of schedule pressure to get that rocket going. And we didn't really know where that schedule pressure was coming from. We knew that they wanted to try at least get it done by the end of 2024. That ultimately didn't happen, but it was 2 weeks after that. Hey, impossible things turning into late by SpaceX's own admission is fine, right? Like, I think that definitely has something to do with it, but at the same time, like it's hard to say because does the government work that fast? Like, oh, it launched, okay, now let's put them on the books. I don't know if they work that fast, dude, Maybe they were pining for it, but I think the success of that launch has a lot to do with it. I mean, we got, it's crazy to talk about. Like, it's crazy that I even have to mention this, right? We got SLS and Starship, two just ridiculously capable, big honking vehicles. And then, it seems like New Glenn is kind of in the shadow. Like, that is not a mark of demerit. This is a 7-meter fairing. At the very least 40 tons to low Earth orbit, reusable first stage. This is not a small vehicle. This is an extremely capable vehicle. And it seems like, it's like kind of on the back burner. It's absolutely crazy to me that it seems like that this type of vehicle, like even 10 years ago, this is unheard of capability. Like that would be like at the forefront 10 years ago, right? Like I'm pumped that they got a contract, and that's more money for New Glenn to get flying. And man, I think that the successful launch does have a lot to do with it, but I think they were going to go for it anyway. You can't ignore this vehicle's capabilities, man. It's quite a good vehicle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also need the 2 qualification flights to get those national security payloads up there. So I think it's kind of that push, like you were saying, even whether they knew they were going to get this contract or not, they want to have that option on the books. So I think they were really pushing to get that first one off so they can get that initial data, go for that second certification flight, and then if all goes well, flight 3, you could technically start flying military payloads. So they have until 2033 with this contract to be able to launch these vehicles, so they have some time, but I think getting that first one off allowed them to basically get that qualification of, yeah, we think you'll get it done in time to be able to launch these by 2033.
Yeah. Hey, here's the thing that sort of sticks out to me in the announcement from the DoD, right? This is sort of like legal language, government procurement language, right? But it says this contract was a competitive acquisition and 4 offers were received. We've got 3 names in the list. Did one of those companies do 2 different offers, or was there a 4th company putting their name in the hat? I don't know off the top of my head. I didn't see that anywhere else announced. Does anybody have any more information on what that 4th offer might have been? Chat?
No. I mean, one thing that EJ, you pointed out in the back channel that we did have a tweet from SpaceX as well saying that for their particular contract, they will be using 2 different launch vehicles. So I wonder if that could be part of it. They announced that these missions will include a mix of Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets and will take place over a 5-year period, as you see on your screen there. I don't know if that's just for the 2 different vehicles, but I wonder if maybe there was another company in there. Could it have been, I don't know, Rocket Lab may be too small of a vehicle, even with Neutron.
Yeah, I don't know.
Relativity, maybe with their upcoming Terran R, but that not being ready yet. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I'm seeing a bunch of names put in the chat. Like, was it Firefly? Was it Gilmore Space? I mean, people are just naming launch providers at this point. Stoke is a name that pops up a lot. Rocket Lab, of course, you just said that. I'm really curious who that fourth one is. I think it's something you could get to the bottom of. Like, they have to be able to tell us which bids were put in or whatever, right? But it's curious that Starship's not mentioned there in SpaceX's response. Also curious what the deleted post above that was, but whatever. I don't.
I was wondering that too. That's what I'm trying to look up.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What is that?
Huh.
I mean, we talked last Flame Trench, they just dropped that they would be able to qualify Starship to fly some of the larger NASA payloads. So I think it makes sense that DoD is still kind of holding off and going with the old reliable. And even when they said they'd be retiring the Falcon family, we were figuring into the 2030s. So this all kind of lines up.
Yeah, yeah. And I see Boeing coming up a lot, right? But Boeing coming up a lot. What does Boeing launch? Like, Boeing doesn't really have its own launcher, does it?
SLS,
I mean,
kinda?
Unless you
Kinda?
wanted SLS up in there, like,
Man, well, that would be crazy if SLS was in the bidding and the only one that didn't get a contract was SLS. I don't know if that's actually accurate. That would have been pretty wacky. I don't know.
that would be a little awkward.
I think that's something that we'll do some more research. Again, this dropped right before we started the show. We're looking at the one thing, and then these tweets are coming in. So if more tweet information comes out, I know we're watching out on the back channel here. So people reading the new information that comes out on the socials and stuff like that. Let's see what else comes up here. But that is interesting. I think we all like seeing money being spent in space. I know that hopefully that's not too controversial of a topic. I know we don't like money being wasted in space. But keeping a healthy ability to put stuff into space over here on U.S. soil is kind of a big deal. So it's good to see money going into that, right?
Yes, even if they can't tell us what the satellites are for or what they're going to be doing.
Yeah. And I even wonder, I mean, it's talking about delivery requirements. Contract provides launch services, mission unique services, mission acceleration, quick reaction, anomaly resolution, special studies, launch service support, fleet surveillance, early integration studies, mission analysis. So it is more than just the cost to launch it itself, right? There's other ancillary tasks to do. I don't even know that this includes the cost of the satellites, right?
I don't think it does, because the
No.
SpaceX or ULA wouldn't have to pay for the satellites. They're just the provider of the vehicle.
Right. So
the NSSL contract is about launch services procurement. That money goes to the NRO and the DoD for satellite procurement for things.
Yep. So that's
About.
not even all the money that'll be spent putting stuff into space, right?
Yeah, this is this Project Kuiper launches, dude. Just on a quick side, I mean that's commercial stuff, right? But
yeah.
This is a huge infusion into the commercial launch market. This is a big deal, guys. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's over a number of years, but as it goes, it's really interesting to see this announcement sort of drop in right before the show here. Shall we move on to the next big news? That's not just big news.
Send it.
Yeah.
I think so.
Y'all all know what the big news. Fram 2 successfully back on planet Earth. I didn't see too many laser eyes boring into me with my snarky cold open there. Still got to get a little bit of mileage out of being stranded in space or not, since we're doing an entire video on that, aren't we, Sawyer?
It may or may not have written that this week, yeah.
I know. It's like, wow, the stranded astronauts you haven't heard about. But anyways, Sawyer, take it away. I know I'm teasing videos. I'm leaking video topics here. Fram 2, back home safely. Take it away.
Chris Bergen, you look different.
What?
With the leaks. I'm sorry. Anyway, yes. The Framstronauts are back finally on Earth after launching Monday evening, 3.5 days in space, and boy, were they spectacular. This was the first ever mission to launch people around the poles, so instead of orbiting in a somewhat equatorial orbit, it completed what Shuttle was never able to do out of launching from Vandenberg, but launching from Cape Canaveral, from 39A, the Falcon 9, and Fram 2, orbiting at a 90-degree inclination, passing over the North and South poles. What was really cool about this in particular is the fact that the crew members on board, and in particular the commander of the mission, posting basically unfiltered, raw kind of opinions and videos shot on iPhone of what it was like up there, being very open about their experiences. So Chun Wang was the one who was the commander in terms of paying for the mission, essentially, and getting everything going. Then you actually had Yannicka Mikkelsen, you had Rebea Roga, and Eric Phillips as the crew of 4 up there. One of the studies was about space adaptation sickness, and they flat out admitted, yeah, the crew got affected by it pretty rough, of basically throwing up in space. Not great in a small environment.
I know we're going to keep going through stuff, but I honestly appreciate that came out, right? Like when you have the professional astronauts that have been slung around in the centrifuge for 100 days before they go to space or whatever, it always felt like it was sort of embarrassing, or medical privacy or whatever gets bandied around, where you never hear about that. But then you're sitting sort of on the side hearing stories from astronauts, and they're like, oh yeah, gosh, it's bad. But it never really comes out with the part of the mission, right? And then we get like Inspiration went, and same sort of thing. Like it looks like, wow, it must be actually pretty tough up there. But you don't really hear the admission of how tough it is to go to space. And then here with Fram 2, we get this really honest commentary on just not feeling good at all when you go to space, right? I think it almost humanizes it a little bit. Am I being a little wacky, or?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, Joss, even when they were egressing, like even when they were coming out of the capsule, like, you know, when they pull the astronauts out of the capsule, sometimes they cut the cameras and then they put them on the cart, right? And they wheel the stretcher and they wheel them off, right? You know, this was a very undignified thing. Like they just, you know, got their gear, lugged it out, and then, you know, had to get out of the capsule, like bumping their head on the door and stuff. They showed the whole thing, and they got out, and it was awesome.
I know.
I think you're absolutely right.
That was one of the experiments they were doing, like the ability to egress after a couple days in space, unassisted. It was unassisted egress, and I think that big package you saw them carrying was part of the test. It's like not only do you have to get yourself out of the capsule, you got to carry your luggage with you. It's like deplaning, right? Get it out of the overhead bin, and you hit somebody else on the head with your Pelican case or whatever. Like,
which one of them stood up before the fasten seatbelt sign was off, waiting to pile out?
Oh, too real, man.
They're not aboard they're not in the nest yet. The little ding hasn't dinged. The fasten seatbelt sign is still on, and one of them's like unbuckling, getting up, and the flight attendant. There's no flight attendant. Mission control is yelling at them. The seatbelt sign's still on. We're on an active taxiway or whatever, I guess. You know what I mean? Waterway, yeah.
But
anyways,
I mean, I'm glad they did. And there they are, just talking about, you know, getting sick as they're sitting there sipping drinks, talking to people. Yep. It's just, I love that. We also saw some of the amazing cinematography that they'll be doing. They had one of those red cameras suction cupped to the window, which was really cool. You could see the body swiveling around as they adjusted it. Yeah. And then, of course, they posted a photo of the first X-ray done in space with a hand.
That was a thing. The space X-ray experiment, mind you.
Yes.
Sorry.
It was very cleverly named, yes.
My emphasis was incorrect. Correct. It was the SpaceX Ray experiment, I think.
Yeah, so
who's Ray?
I'll give you a half pun token for that.
Half a pun token, nice. That and $5, and I can get me a sandwich. Anyways.
But it was, again, a successful mission, it seems like, on all accounts. It was very cool to see everything posted so openly on X, the Everything app, and all of that. So it was a very unique, very cool mission.
Yeah. There was a WDB-57 shot there. You got to love it when the WDB-57 is out. Here's a shot from the ship or something down on the ground. Not the ground, the ocean, right? Just a second ago, Kevin, I know we talked right through it, but we also saw the thruster jam. Not not thruster jam. Sorry, not thruster jam. The thruster beats or whatever is probably the right way to say it.
I mean, yeah. Just before re-entry, they took a video of one of the deorbit burns, not the big one, but one of the like mid deorbit burns. So
Yeah.
It was a deorbit phase, right, Sawyer?
Exactly. Yeah. EJ, you were talking about what we were hearing, though.
Yeah. So I don't know if this can they actually hear this or
I don't know, Kevin. Can they hear this?
Hi, Kevin.
Chat, can they hear? Can y'all hear this? I don't know.
No, they can't. But give me a second.
Okay, here.
All
Wait,
right,
EJ, make the noises. The noise suppression is making it so you can't hear the noises EJ's making. Oh God.
So, all right. What are you going to do? I mean, they could probably hear it for what it's worth. You guys probably can't hear it on Discord.
Probably.
Oh, who knows? Yeah, Kevin can work on that though. But even just little stuff like that, like they're posting like 15-minute long videos.
No.
It's like vlogs from space or whatever, not really filtered. Dude in charge of the mission who bought the mission and sponsored the whole thing is just like, yeah, here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to start recording some stuff and we're going to talk about things for 15 minutes and just like release it.
Sorry,
no
what'd
Wait,
you
what?
call them?
Wait, what did I say?
The type of videos that they were putting out, the 15-minute longs. What'd you call it?
What did I just say? Vlogs or something?
You mean a vlog?
No, man. No, it's not a word. It's a vlog. It's not a vlog. That sounds terrible.
I thought we were friends.
Well, I'm not a vlogger, I'll tell you that much.
Yes, you are.
If that's what it takes to be friends, unsign me up, Sawyer. Jeez. Oh, wait, they can hear now. Kevin, yes? Help us out. Chat, can you hear this? EJ, these are like the solenoids opening and closing. The thrusters are just... It's not like you might think of a thruster that's being controlled by MechJeb, just constantly on the entire time, right? It's just little spurts, right?
Yeah. So, all right, okay, nerd time.
Nerd time.
Who's ready? Who's ready? Are you guys ready?
I'm ready,
Brace
yeah.
yourselves.
Let's do it.
The nerdry is coming. So, Dragon uses, and this is actually, frankly, most spacecraft, but Dragon uses a pressure-fed hypergolic system, meaning you have helium tanks that are pressurizing a liquid fuel and oxidizer tank, and those are going to the thrusters. Now, because reaction control system thrusters are rocket engines. They are rocket engines. It's a kind of a regular de Laval convergent divergent nozzle, right? But it doesn't have like turbine machinery behind it because it's pressure-fed. The other thing is that, unlike like a shuttle engine or a Raptor engine, these engines don't have like a active cooling system, right? They can't like run propellants through them. The propellants, the liquid fuel and oxidizer that they're using is not very cold. It's actually just kind of room temperature, I guess. So now what are they using? They're using hypergolic propellants. It's monomethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. Now, to simplify the rocket engine design, right? No need for pumps. You're pressure fed, and you don't need like an injector or like a fuel injection plate,
or an
and you don't need turbine
source.
Machinery. Yeah, exactly. You don't need a fuel ignition source. Exactly. When these two hit each other, they explode. So that keeps the thrusters design very, 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 very simple. Basically, the thruster at the very top of the combustion chamber has two solenoids, right? And those two solenoids, just one of them has NTO, the other one has MMH, and they fire into the thruster and they explode. You get rocket engine doing rocket things. Goes right out the nozzle. But you have to pulse these things. The reason why you have to pulse these things is because if you consider, like when From2 launched, you looked at the Merlin vacuum engine. Merlin vacuum engine, the nozzle is glowing. That's actually how it cools itself. Because of what it's made out of, it radiates the heat instead of convecting it or conducting it. Because you can't convect it, there's no atmosphere, and you don't need the rest of your spacecraft melting or your poppet seals blowing up. So conducting heat is not a good idea either. So it radiates it out through light. Now, the RCS thrusters do the same thing. They glow. And you can only introduce so much heat into this thing, right, before it'll start melting things. We recently figured out, the fruits of that labor. It's great.
Yeah.
But on Dragon, they're pulsing the thruster, so that's why you hear the noise, because they can't They can't just keep them on like Das was saying. You can't just mech jeb this thing. Just all right, RCS burn for like 5 minutes. Constant thrust. That would be that would break things. Like I said, we saw the fruits of that labor. So yeah, they're pulsing the thrusters, which is why you hear those clicking noises.
Yeah, it's more of a duty cycle thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's called pulse width modulation. I was actually reading about it, but yeah, pulse width modulation.
So in your book, like the book you had.
Oh yeah.
That's like
What do you think? This is just a prop? Oh, I read this.
I don't know. What's the title of that book, EJ? Hang on. What is it?
Modern Engineering for Design of Liquid Propellant Rocket Engines.
Sounds like it might have a concept like that in there. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's a good book. Really good book, actually.
Nice.
Also, I'm just going to throw it out there. MechJeb is cheating. Anyway.
MechJeb is cheating.
Right.
That's why I said I was implying that MechJeb is wasteful with my snide MechJeb remark there. But anyways.
Yes. Also, no canards. This is a canard-free stream.
It's a canard-free zone today. Yeah, Jack not allowed on the show today after the canard showing in previous events. So
this just in from Chun, from him on X, of the departing of the recovery ship.
Oh, nice. That has to be sort of a thing, like I was sort of mentioning, like no comms team, no big layer of bureaucracy to put the information and sanitize the information you're releasing to the public. What if they take it wrong? Like all this different stuff. He's like the dude who decides, I guess, and if he wants to post a picture from the helicopter, well, he can do that. He wants to post a video from the spacecraft, he could do that. Like it really it was refreshing to see that sort of stuff coming out from the mission, knowing the layers of filters and I will say bureaucracy that it seems like comms normally go through, right? It's nice to see that, quite frankly.
Hashtag no filter, yes.
Hashtag no filter. They were flying over the Cape in this shot here. They actually zoomed in. There's Florida Keys down there. You can see going out into the Gulf there. And then there is Florida, and then the old Enhance onto the Cape. You see the little nose bump there. That is Cape Canaveral. Right in the middle of the screen, you can see 39A and 39B. You'll see a little Y. And on the right-hand side, there's a little bulb. That's 39A, and the left-hand side is 39B. That's where they launched from.
I want to believe that somewhere down there, Max and D have their cameras pointed up, trying to take a picture back. I want to believe that.
Nice.
I mean,
can I believe that?
Do you know who actually did that? Ryan Caton.
No.
Depod Dolphin Pro himself actually has a shot on his social media of Fram 2 flying overhead with what looked like a Starlink train going by as well at the same time.
Something behind it, yeah. Huh.
But
cool.
What's also cool is that this was the first ever West Coast recovery of a Dragon 2. So, of the Crew Dragon and Cargo Dragon 2 variant as they move things out to the West Coast. There it is, by the way.
Yeah.
The picture. It's a little hard to see, but on the left, there's a vertical line, and that is because of the polar orbit. That is Fram 2.
I think Kevin is Kevin pointing at the right thing?
I promise you,
Kevin will tell you. I don't know.
Go to
Kevin,
social.
No, you're other left.
Your other left. Ryan Caton is like, seriously, people? Like, are you kidding me?
There's a more contrasted one in the comments there on the right, Kevin. That one has it clearer.
Good grief. But it just a lot of cool stuff coming out of the mission here. Privately funded spaceflight. Love to see more of that. Actual spaceflight, not dipping our nose into the space and then coming right back again, but actually making a couple orbits. Dragon in use. Hope the toilets were working the entire time. Didn't hear anything negative about the toilets here. Splashdown on the West Coast. That's a new thing. Remember the Dragon trunks were crashing into places where they didn't need to be crashing into, mostly farmers' fields and stuff, but they changed from the East Coast to the West Coast to change up the reentry trajectories there, right? I think I saw some commentary on this. Those West Coast recoveries may have a little bit of challenge because it's such busy air patterns down there, right?
Yeah, especially if you go right off of Los Angeles or San Diego. Yeah, that's kind of busy down there.
Yeah, so I go, EJ.
The air traffic is definitely crazier down there. I mean, that's a big shipping lane too, but the shipping lane's kind of more up towards Los Angeles, right? But actually, guys, I don't know if you saw, if you guys were watching this coverage, we were watching it over on the Twitch end of things. They actually deorbited first and then jettisoned the trunk. Just, I don't know if you guys knew that. That part of the reason why they chose the West Coast, right, is to make sure that the trunk doesn't come down in a populated area.
Right.
But they actually switched it because on previous missions, it was jettison the trunk, then do the deorbit burn. But this ensures like full, complete destruction of the trunk on Dragon, right?
It probably makes it a lot more predictable.
Exactly.
By dipping it into the atmosphere in a more controlled manner and not letting the vagaries of trunk orientation relative to the path through the atmosphere and exactly the density of the atmosphere in every place that it goes through. Like, if you intentionally put it into the atmosphere at an intentional time, you really narrow that corridor where it may come down, right?
Yep, exactly. And they did it after the deorbit burn, so there ain't any piece of that thing left.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Anything else on Fram? I love to see missions like that. I love to see those sorts of missions. Love to see people up there telling us how it goes, like real people, right? So
I do have one more thing. Let me just make sure that Mr. Kevin Michael Reed, the voice of God himself, has the all the imagery for it. But yeah.
Is it about Fram, or is it?
It is about Fram. Yes,
it's about Fram.
Someone I know, aka me, was crazy enough to, right after the launch, work with a friend of mine, Joe. We decided to rent a boat and see if we could find the booster on its way back, as this is only the second ever booster that has returned from a polar launch trajectory and then passed along the coast and made it back to Port Canaveral, the first being Transporter 1 back in 2021. Back then, it was like, it's about 6-8 miles off the coast. Cool, let's try and see if we can get it. Yep. So, coming back from the Cape, and I see the tracker, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's right there. So, we worked with the boat captain, and we keep going, and 20 miles out, we finally saw it sticking up out of the water, and we found it off the coast of Stuart, Florida. And we were able to float right behind it, as you see there, float up right alongside it, both sides. The crew on board just kind of saw that we were there and let us do our thing. So on a little pontoon boat, there's 4 of us out there just snapping pictures away of it. So NSF and only one other person were the only ones out there for it, and we're only ones crazy enough to do this. And as you see, a couple of those shots are at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, and Membies have full access on the Discord, and I believe on L2, to all of those photos that I took, because there's a lot.
That is one of the wacky things that y'all support lets us do. So Sawyer gets a wild idea to go out there and let's rent a boat and go all the way out and see if we can catch this thing going by. Like, we see them come into the port all the time. Catching one out in the wild that far offshore is a totally different thing, right, Sawyer? Folks,
yeah. I mean, when it's in the port, it's maybe a mile away. We have our cameras there. This was using a boat tracking app with satellite pings that were 10 minutes old while rushing out on a pontoon to see if we could get it.
To see if you could like get in front of it or just catch up to it or whatever. So you could see it in a way that isn't the normal way of seeing it, right? You see it coming to the port, sure, whatever. You see the awesome drone photography. Y'all know Jerry that does the drone photography. Okay, that's cool too. But here's one like out, nothing around you except water, and then there's the booster just doing its thing. Plug it. That is just a really cool picture.
Thank you. Did you know, by the way, boosters smell? Normally, we don't get to smell them as they come by because it's also been out in the ocean for 2 days, but this was maybe 14-ish, 15-ish hours after it landed. We're going by it, and we're like, what's that smell? It's not diesel. It's definitely not, the smell that we're used to of fuel for boats.
Yeah, like bunker fuel or whatever.
It smelled burnt. It was this nasty, like, burnt metallic smell, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's the soot. That's the booster still hot from coming back. You could smell a burnt-like smell.
No kidding. You had to get in the downwind from it, so you get that Ude booster blowing in your face with the sea breeze or whatever, I guess.
You need to sell that as perfume.
Sell that as a perfume. It's like boosters smell like burnt hair and metal or something. Like what? All right. Cool. Chat, would y'all buy that? Hey, we have a lot more stuff to talk about, but I was sort of getting into the thanking you for the support, thanking Sawyer or supporting Sawyer, what he's doing out there. You can do that by buying some of those prints there in the shop. It's shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Also, a lot of support's already come into the stream here, right? And I am remiss because some of them are blinking yellow at me, actually red. The joke here, I guess the game is, can you make us talk about something for long enough that it turns red on my screen? But Phil says, let's get this flame trench popping. NSF is life with a super chat coming in. Space Pope, $50 at the top of the show, 39 minutes ago, mind you, saying bless this trench. I'm not going to try to sing a blessing or anything like that, but thank you, Space Pope. Mike Alpha Tango Sierra gifted 50 Red Team memberships a little bit ago. Space Pope also gifted 50 Red Team memberships. Good grief to both of you. That's 100 total. I added that up myself between the two 50s there. And then right after that, Elizabeth Hopner, $100 super chat. And this is 36 minutes ago. That's why it's red on my screen, because we're rambling about missions and stuff. And I remiss in saying thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for the $100 super chat. Devin did 20 Red Team members. Daniel Hogman did 5 Red Team members. Dougal did 5 Team Red members. Whatever. Booster 1058. Okay? I'm good. Did 5 Red Team members. Bideford. Here, my son is the best. He also loves NSF thanks to me. Bideford, that means you're the best. Like your son is the best through the transitive property of being the best, or associative maybe. You're like rubbing off on them. So thank you for being the best. It is. It's math, actually.
That too.
For watching.
Close enough.
Is math related to science?
The last one here, Saturn Man with some knock, 59. These are Norwegian kroners. If you ever go to Oslo, make sure to visit the Fram Museum. You can walk on and inside the actual Fram polar ship. Of course, that's where Fram 2 got its name from. Long ago in, well, I guess sort of the same place, just slightly lower, closer to the Earth. Fram, the original polar mission in a seafaring sailing ship, right? And then Fram 2, the orbital boogaloo? Whatever. Fram 2, named after the original Fram expeditions. You got Framonauts, you got all sorts of stuff, references in there. But anyways, folks, we don't spend the entire show talking about the thanks. We couldn't keep doing the shows without y'all's thanks. So thanks. Moving right along. What's the next topic here? Oh, scrolling down. There we have that. Info material. Oh, buddy. EJ, we're coming to you. It seems like, some paperwork getting finished up here.
Yep. So just on a quick side note, the New Glenn investigation was closed by the FAA. They closed the mishap investigation from New Glenn, the NG-1 mission. And Blue basically announced that they're one step closer towards the next launch. The New Glenn 1 flight was back in January, and New Glenn did make it. It made it all the way up into space. Great separation, which is a big part of the mission. I mean, liftoff is actually a huge deal. Like, I don't know about you guys, your first orbital rocket attempt, with a rocket that's like, almost a 30-story building, you get it to separate, fine, whatever, it's good, right? Staging, fairing separation was good. Unfortunately, they did have a little bit of a problem with trying to restart the New Glens to do the exoatmospheric land deceleration burn. That's what
nice.
It's called.
There were words in there that made sense, I think.
Say that
supersonic retro propulsion. Sorry, that's what it's called. Anyway, so they unfortunately did have some trouble trying to restart the BE-4 for their entry burn, and that did trigger a mishap investigation.
Yeah.
Blue has basically isolated it to fluid management and thermal conditioning of the BE-4s, prior to the reentry burn. Long story short, we always, you guys hear, if you watch Falcon 9s with us, you hear like, engine chill has started, or hear, Merlin vacuum is chilling, or, stuff like that. That has to do with thermal conditioning of the rocket engines. You're using cold propellants. Your pumps need to be cold to match the temperature of the propellants. Because if you have a hot impeller and you put cold propellants into it, well, bad stuff happens. So Blue cited that they didn't have the fluid management systems dialed in perfectly, but they do have the solution, and they're looking forward to flying basically at the end of spring, I think is what they said. But yeah, that's not really that big of a deal. Like getting the fluid management right on something you've never done before. I mean, we have our friends at ESAR. They know all about, not getting it right the first time. All right, cool. Do it again. Let's go. Launch another one. Let's do it. So the mishap investigation is closed. So that kind of paves the way for another New Glenn launch, which is great. And once again, it goes back to what I was saying when we were talking about the DoD stuff. New Glenn is not a small launch vehicle. This is a gigantic vehicle. It has a 7-meter payload fairing, which is the biggest payload fairing flying around. It's this capability cannot be understated how good this vehicle actually could be. You could use it to build space stations. Obviously, they're using it to build landers. You could do pretty much whatever you want with this thing. I mean, 7-meter fairing, there's a lot of room for activities in there. Put bunk beds in it. You do all kinds of cool stuff. I'm pumped. Yeah, you can put bunk beds in it. Hey, Das, I got another thing. You like guacamole?
Do I like guacamole, Kevin? Do we have a guacamole emote or something? Can we put guacamole on the screen? Live avocado cam or something? I don't know.
Live avocado cam.
I would have prepared the live avocado cam. It's like turning black on like a live stream. Anyways.
So, yeah, they closed the mishap investigation, and Blue is basically gunning for that next launch, and I'm here for it. More rockets, more better, as Jack would say.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we had so many different great views of that launch. I think this is an official view, but we were out in force, the NSF team out in force. We had some of our new tech, those robotic trackers we've been working on. I've got a pile of equipment building up in the corner of my house that I need to machine some parts for and get the heck out of here before my wife starts hiding it from me. But anyways, she vacuumed around it. She moved it and vacuumed around it.
You can send it here. I got space. We're good.
You got space.
Just in case.
You just need more rockets to fly by your house, EJ, to really get the use out of it.
I can see them if they fly up the coast.
They do
just saying, ISS missions, I can see those things.
Yes, the saying. Boston Spaceport coming soon.
The Boston Spaceport. That's a point-to-point thing right there.
Oh,
investors? Possibly you. No? All right, cool.
Anyways, that's a whole thing. The mishap investigation being closed, the report complete, flights coming up.
See?
Guacamole cam!
It's right there.
Yes!
I feel like that's not live. Gosh. Shoe on avocado or it's not live. Anyways, like anybody understands. Twitch gets what I'm saying. Twitch understands the reference there. It is exciting to see. I know, and I think that unfairly, Blue Origin gets a lot of grief because they are who they are, or maybe more accurately, they aren't who they aren't, or they are who they aren't, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, well said.
It's exciting to see another launcher come into play. The fact that they put a payload into orbit the first time, that was the big thing for me. It takes a couple times to get the landings, to get to the reuse, right? Everybody falls the first time. Matrix sort of quote there. But to put a payload all the way into orbit on the first time is sort of a big deal. And it's tough to see them get grief for that, knowing that they put that payload all the way into orbit. So anyways, exciting to see Blue Origin getting a little love to the tune of a few $1 billion and continuing on with the mishap investigation being closed, freeing them up to target another launch, let's say sooner rather than later. How's that sound?
I mean, yeah, the fact that it's already closed up, which for a first ever flight to have an investigation closed within a couple months, that's pretty darn good. And now add in the fact that they nailed the actual payload part. It's mainly getting that re-entry part down. We've seen on the KSE flyovers and from in their live streams even that they have multiple rockets in processing. They have multiple vehicles that can be ready to go. I think it wouldn't be out of the question to see another launch of Blue Origin coming up in the next couple months. I would say that's possible.
Yep. That really is the big thing, right? Like, it's not how did this one launch go? It's the cadence. Like, do you have another rocket ready? Do you have more rocket readies? It's like SpaceX, hardware-rich development. They have rockets waiting to fly, right? Any given test isn't the end-all, like the end-all be-all of everything. It's not like the entire program is doomed because one test failed. It's very good to see the mentality sort of moving away from that. And it's not just this one, it's how many more are waiting in the barn to fly next, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
All right.
Great. Send the next one. Send the next one. Get it right. If it blows up, send one after that. Keep going.
I guess in terms of mishap investigations, we are going to talk a little bit about Starship mishap investigations. Starhap. It's
available
the Starhap
to shop now?
Maybe. Hey, it's going to have the debris, the flaming debris all over the hat, right? All over print sort of thing. Star hat or Starhap. I think I was combining Starship with mishap. Honestly, pretty accurate for the actual Starship these days. But moving right along, let me grab a little bit of support here so that it doesn't turn red. I remembered, chat. I remembered this time. Here we have, I did get Saturn Man. We've got Steve Kalovic says, yes, I'm the awesome son, a.k.a. Bideford Jr. Nice. Apparently typing in chat with your own account. Appreciate you there, Steve. And wait a second, Bideford says, I left my computer open so my son posted the last comment. FYI, I'm a woman. Oh, no, did I say? I knew that, but did I say, in any event, thank you, Bideford.
Bideford, is it margarita time?
Yes, it's margarita time. Now, wait a second, but the other comments, I feel like we might be getting trolled there. I don't know, one or other. Bideford, we always see your name in the chat. We always see you supporting what we do, so thank you either way. And the last one here, Peter Moss asking for we need a 24/7 stream from Avocado Cam. Peter Moss, the last name checks out for Avocado Cam. I guess it'd be more like Peter Mold or Peter Mildew or something.
Or Peter Haas, like Haas Avocados.
Right. Thank you. Yes, Peter Haas. And then we cut to the avocado screen.
So, all right. Next time we're down in Boca, we will take an avocado and we'll put it in front of the trailer cam. Right?
See how it survives the launch.
Yep. EJ, like night one, it's eaten by a coyote and it disappears. We're going to need an IR camera because the coyote runs off with it on the first night.
I mean, either it'll rot or something will eat it. Either way, we're all going to have a lot of fun, right? Like,
wait a minute. Didn't for Starship Flight 1, Jack tape a thing of bacon inside one of the cameras that we set up at remotes? Was that not a thing?
I hope not. That's how do you want ants? That's how you get ants.
I mean, this was Starship Flight 1, which amazingly we're coming up on the anniversary of in a couple of weeks. But I remember taping bacon for some reason to see if it cooked. I don't know why.
I don't recall that. I do feel like it would have animals coming after your expensive camera equipment. But in any event.
And we had concrete coming after it instead. It's fine.
Concrete less attracted by bacon. But let's move right along here because there are going to be some spicy conversation of the next topic here. EJ, danger on approach to the ISS. Tell us about the Burger article came out there from the interview.
Oh, buckle up, chat. Both chats, Twitch chat. Get the 4-point harness ready to go. This gets spicy. So Eric Berger, he's a writer for Ars Technica and a great author, might I add. Writes a bunch of books about SpaceX, the early days at SpaceX. Pretty good dude. He had an article where he interviewed Butch and Sonny about the Starliner mission that they were on and how they went up on Starliner and how they came back down on Crew 9, right, on a Dragon capsule. And this gets bad. We knew that Starliner was having some issues. We knew that.
No.
What?
Does it really?
Yeah,
there is nothing in here we didn't already know. It's just dramatized. Proceed.
Yeah, it's just dramatized. All right, yeah. Listen, yeah. With what I'm about, dude. This is so bad. Like, it's not great. We knew that they were having problems with the thrusters. NASA was very straightforward about this, but Barry Wilmore was very forthcoming about this. There were parts of the RPOD, the Rendezvous Proximity Operations and Docking Sequence for Starliner. Basically, when Butch and Sonny were up there with Starliner, trying to get it to that ISS, that part got a lot more spicy than we really kind of knew. The quick way to say this is that they lost control. They lost control of the capsule. Like that. It is a little more technical than that, but that is the gist of it. They had what's called a 60OF LOC, 6 degrees of freedom, loss of control. That is extraordinarily bad, especially during rendezvous proximity operations. So what was going on is Starliner was on an automated ascent or automated rendezvous, right? And because they didn't get their pulse width modulation right, they started overheating the poppet seals on the thrusters. What's the poppet seal? Poppet seal, we talked a little bit. There's a reason why I went in depth with those Dragon thrusters when we were here in the deorbit burn with Fromm a second ago. So hopefully people were paying attention. There's a very good reason why I went that detailed. Starliner has a similar type of thruster, right? You know, you have your 2 injectors, right? And your injector has a seal. You ideally don't want that to leak. The Starliner started overheating its thrusters, and it potentially damaged a seal that caused fuel to leak inside of the doghouses. Potentially. We don't know that for sure. But either way, the computer started shutting down thrusters. Now, Starliner has 4 kind of blocks of thrusters. They're called doghouses, and they lost thrusters in 4 of them pointed in direction. It all pointed in the right or in the same direction. So they lost control. To the point where Barry Wilmore, in his interview with Eric, was basically like, "Yeah, the flight rules kind of say like if we lose control here, we should deorbit, but I'm not entirely sure we can do that with broken thrusters. Like, there's really no way to do that without the things that you need to deorbit malfunctioning." So NASA actually amended their flight rules mid-rendezvous, which, okay. And here's what they did. They shut the thruster blocks off and turned them back on again to rearm them and basically have the automated systems nurse that Starliner capsule back, like, to dock to the ISS, because that was seen as the safer option than trying to deorbit, believe it or not. Dude, what a nightmare. Violation of flight rules, loss of control on the capsule. Not great. Not great. All that stems from basically Boeing not doing their thermal analysis correctly on their thrusters. Whenever you're flying something new and it has a system like this, you always, you want to make sure your thrusters don't overheat. So you do an analysis, based off of how much heat, the total impulse of heat per firing of the RCS gets introduced into the thruster, and how much heat that thruster can passively shed, like what we were talking about. The thrusters actually glow to shed off heat. If you fire them too much, they melt. They start to melt. And that's what we saw happen. Now, with Starliner, the computer saved 3 out of 4 of those thrusters. They actually genuinely, from a hardware standpoint, only lost 1 thruster. But Starliner started, and I must say, this is actually a pretty dang good control system. Starliner basically figured out that 4 of those thrusters were hitting the rev limiter, so to speak, and the computer shut them off before it damaged anything else, which is actually, thankfully it did that. That's, the control systems engineers on Starliner, good on them. But, oh man, this article was very telling. Fellas, I don't know about you, Das, I don't know about you. I don't think people should have flown on this.
EJ, can I cover the same story without the sensationalism and dramaticism there? Like, can I tell the story as well without all the embellishments?
Go ahead. Ooh. Wait, I wasn't embellishing.
Yeah, you were, dude.
Go ahead.
It's not even a fight sort of thing. And here's the important thing for people to realize. How you tell a story can dramatically change the way that the story is received by people, right? So if you recount the article and you tell it without all of the sensationalism, the drama that people really love, that people love to click on, that people love to buy the story, right? Starliner launches on Atlas V. Ride is fantastically smooth. They say, wow, we're used to the simulations having little deviations. In the ride up was no deviations. It was super weird. We disconnect. We're going on Starliner. Starliner's behaving perfectly. Doesn't say feels like a race car. That's how I sort of read it, right? But Starliner is behaving quite well. and it has very good responsive control when they initially check it out. Then it gets cold, and part of the story there is they had to get rid of some of their, they didn't bring a sleeping bag. They got rid of some of the clothes and room for more ISS cargo, right? Because did they not need it? Did they not think they needed it? I'm not sure, right? But it gets down pretty chilly in the capsule. 50 in the 50s, lower than 50. I'm not sure how they didn't have the exact number there. But it gets cold. And so cold that Butch says he can't sleep, right? Has a fitful sleep. And now it's time to rendezvous at the space station. And he gets up from his inability to sleep, I guess you could say, right? And they begin approaching the space station. And while they're approaching, they move into manual control, and a thruster fails. Like EJ said, it got shut down. And they're continuing to go. They still have redundant thrusters. They haven't lost control. Even just saying it that way, like, wow, the capsule lost control. That's crazy. And you picture this capsule spinning out of control, right? It's Neil Armstrong trying to arrest a Gemini roll or whatever. That's not what happened, right? They still had redundant control. And they're going, and another thruster fails, and they're like, whoa, hold off. Now, as the test pilot, Wilmore knows that they have redundant systems for a reason, right? That's why it's designed that way. And you can lose the system and you can still have control. He says it feels a little sluggish, right? But if you continue losing systems, you continue losing thrusters, you can get to a point where you can't make the capsule go a certain way that you need it to. So what happens? Well, they talk to Mission Control. They pause. He has to get his hands off the control, and they reboot the thrusters. Guess what? The thrusters come back and work. And I think, what did they get? Did they get all of them back? They got everything but one back. And then another thruster fails, right? And another thruster fails, and what happens? Well, hands off. But all they did was reboot the thrusters, and then they worked fine. In the loss of control, like you picture this capsule spinning out of control, that's not what was happening. In fact, he even says it in the article that they're drifting, and you have to sort of keep the nose of the Dragon pointed at the docking port on the station, right? And if you drift too much out of control, then you have to abort. The systems can't see the docking port anymore, and so you'd have to abort if you can't get it back into that orientation, right? But that didn't happen. The capsule wasn't spinning out of control. Rebooting the thrusters gave them the control that they needed, and at the end of the day, Starliner docked with the space station. And you can tell the story that way. I've even added more words than I needed, right? You can tell the story that way, and it's not very exciting, right? Even then, Starliner came home just fine. Air quotes around just fine. But Starliner made it home and was successfully recovered. But how you tell that story using the same set of facts, you can change how it sort of lands with people. And I keep hearing, oh, out of control, this thing's spinning around like crazy, right? It wasn't. There's the video of it drifting in. Starliner needs some more work, for sure. I see chat going like crazy out of the corner of my eye.
They didn't like your version.
It's okay. That's because that's not what people want to buy, right? You want to bang Starliner. You want to say how terrible it is. Oh, it's spun out of control. We didn't know if we're going to make it.
Dude.
Yeah, but still, that's the story that everybody wants. I'm not okay with it.
Dude,
Discuss.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I don't think, like, guys, don't get me wrong. Like, even with the way that I told it, I don't think Starliner should be canceled or anything. I don't think it should be canceled. I think it should. No. I want it to fly. I want more spaceships. All right, but Das, like, you're looking at the capsule. You're looking at it. Oh, it kind of drifts away. They kind of keep the nose pointed at it. Put it at the space station. Dude, a loss of control during RPOD is no joke. I mean, it doesn't look like much. Doesn't look like much is going on. But a loss of control when you're close to the space station is quite actually a nightmare. That is a nightmare scenario.
How, though?
That we saw play out.
How?
What do you mean how?
And look how slowly it's drifting towards the station. It's not spinning. It's not ramming into the station. It's like a barely perceptible drift. They have all the time I say they have all the time in the world. They have plenty of time, right? They reboot it and everything works fine.
I think that's the scariest part, though, is that it is the barely perceptible drift in a way. In that, yes, it's slightly out of, and it mentions in the article, per their quotes, that it, it was out of line. It was still within the safe area. Their nose, they could still see it.
Right.
So it wasn't totally an abort criteria, but it was starting to drift out of the center line where it was. At the same time, though, that's the problem. If you then are able to continue onward, or you can't move your thrusters and you continue forward, then you're hitting into the station as opposed to the docking port. And I think the most interesting part of this is two things. Well, I say one, there's two. One, the idea of having to change those flight rules in the middle of it as you're losing the degrees of freedom. Technically, if you're down to, one redundancy, one set redundant feature, then it should be an abort. This one, they technically got down to 0, where if something else had broken, then we were in bigger problems. The second being that Butch was then trying to hand fly this thing to make it work. I mean, he tried. He was able to get it to work up to a certain point. And he flat out said that he almost decided not to give it back to the automated control for the docking. He talked to the engineers on the ground beforehand and said, hey, if something goes wrong and I need to take manual control, there's a good chance I'm not giving back control to the computers because it's working and I have it. And he managed to so that they could reset it, and it ended up working. But I think that's the other big thing is when you have someone who's hand flying it, who's like, I don't want to let go of this bird because I have it just working enough,
So it may be the exact specification, the exact circumstance of exactly what failed, right? In the article or in the interview, the thing that they were down to the wire on was the ability to speed up and go towards the station faster. Did I read that correctly? I read it 3 times trying to get it right. But if I had lost the ability to slow down or back away from the station, that's a bigger deal for me. If I'm already drifting towards the station, sort of like moving in for the docking, and I lose the ability to speed up and go to the station even faster, of the failures you could have, any failure is a big deal. And can you trust the other thrusters? Can you trust the other thrusters, right? But it's not like we were approaching the station at 3 meters per second and all of a sudden the brakes failed. And if we don't regain control, we're not going to be able to stop and we're going to crash into the station. Even that wasn't the case, right? In even the failure mode, it wasn't that the thruster stuck open and could not be turned off, and so all of a sudden it's either burning fuel trying to counteract it or it's spinning out of control, right? That's a whole different thing as well. The whole thing seemed very controlled, and while redundancies may have been evaporating, for lack of a better term, right? Even that's an emotional term. Even though the redundancies were failing, it wasn't like the capsule was spinning out of control, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, loss of control, but loss of control is loss of control. Like, no, they weren't. It wasn't like Neil Armstrong and the Gemini mission, like where it's just spinning out of control. That's probably at the other end of the spectrum for like crazy losses of control. But I mean, that's like I gotta ask you. You had these thrusters fail. One of them actually failed from a hardware. They couldn't get one back. The computer said, "No, I'm not. I know. I'm not trying to fire that."
That's why we have redundant thrusters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sensationalism here is kind of justified. The reason why is because you're getting so much deviance from this capsule, and you're being okay with it is not good. This was supposed to be the shakedown cruise. This was supposed to be an end-to-end demonstration to prove that this capsule is safe, and you're running into quadruple failure modes here.
Is that what you mean by deviance? Like things not working as they should, or do you mean deviance like the capsule was out of control, spinning and tumbling, or not even lined up with the station or whatever?
This is normalization of deviance 101, dude. Right. I mean, granted, I think NASA flight operations and Starliner made the right decision here, sending it to the station because they weren't sure if they could get home. Right, you don't know what you did to the thrusters. They got to the space station and used it kind of as a lifeboat for the capsule, right? But like the sensationalism is kind of warranted here, I think, dude, because NASA violated their own flight rules.
Did they?
When you're changing.
Wait a second.
They changed their flight rules around.
Well, help me out. Hey, whoa! Y'all just said two different things. EJ just said they changed the flight rules.
Yeah.
And Sawyer said they violated the flight rules. Which is it? Did somebody make a conscious decision to change the flight rules as they were approaching the station? Or did somebody say, screw it, we're just going to do whatever? Who cares what the flight rules are? Like, which one did they do?
they violated what would have been a normal flight rule, but they made a modification to said rule on the fly as they were going.
Right. So they thought through it and they said,
They
hey,
waived it.
this is still okay to proceed. It's not reckless abandon charging the station out of control. We looked at it and we said, all right, we're going to go ahead and proceed with this.
Yeah. And yeah, that right there on the test flight, the point that I'm really trying to get at is that I think this is the gist from the article. I mean, I don't know. I could be kind of reaching here a little bit. Starliner is not a bad capsule. I really don't think it is. I really don't. It got there. They got to tweak some things here and there. Every capsule has teething problems, but also there was no logical flight rationale for putting people on this thing and sending it to the space station. The name of the game with spaceflight is don't put yourself in a position where you have to be like, okay, maybe we should change the flight rules. Okay, all right, maybe it's good. Decisions like that are what lead to RUDs and catastrophic results. We don't want that, right?
It sounds like rapid iteration of the flight rules.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
Not great during human space flight. I will certainly say
not with
that.
people on board. If you're just doing, you're testing Starship, right? Like, okay, yeah, it blew up. It came down in the disaster area. Everybody knew about it. Like, not when meat bags are on board. This is not. What a nightmare this is.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if this was a plane? The plane landed on the runway, but we had a loss of control right before we landed.
Well, that's like the engine's out,
bad.
and the reason we have two engines is because redundant engines, and we still have cross range, and we have planes that can land on the runway even with an engine out, right? It happens.
But engine out is not loss of control of an airplane, dude. Those are two different things.
And here's the thing, Das. You pointed out the fact that the direction in which they failed, yes, it was the forward thrusters, I believe. So it's like, okay, they can still make it towards the ISS. The problem is the fact that you have to make the decision of, wait a minute, it's actually more dangerous to abort than it is to continue with an off-centered docking to the International Space Station, because the ISS at least is a safe haven. They had no idea if there would be enough thrusters in the correct direction that would work to do a safe deorbit that wouldn't become ballistic, that wouldn't go out of control, that would guarantee that they would be in the proper orientation and make it back safely. The fact that even has to be a consideration as your thrusters are failing mid-docking, when it should just be, the whole point is you either dock or if things aren't right, you abort. That's setting off red flags when I heard Butch's quotes from that.
Right. But what happened? They rebooted the thrusters and they docked fine. They rebooted the thrusters and they deorbited fine. Like, there is a difference between the confidence and not the confidence, right?
I think that also your definition of fine. Yes, they're there. They made it safely. They made it on. Yes, the capsule made it back. Things were still failing, though. There were still issues. The crew probably would have been fine, but.
Well, I'm not even saying that. Like, of course there was issues. Nobody's going to say there's no issues at all with it, right?
Right.
But how bad they were. Like, how sensational it was. How crazy was it that this actually happened?
I mean, yeah, they were able to thankfully reboot, and they got a couple of the thrusters back. If that didn't happen, then we have a whole nother discussion here. Thankfully, it did. Thankfully, there are and I have to quote Butch on this, and he said, make sure you put this in the article, that the people in mission control were quote-unquote heroes, the ones working to modify those flight rules, the ones working to look at what was going on, to think, you know what, let's restart it. Good, we have just enough thrusters to be able to dock safely. Let's do that, and then we'll reevaluate. I just need to point out really quick there the fact that he did acknowledge the heroes, quote unquote, that were in Mission Control Houston working on this during it.
Even
ops,
that,
man.
Yeah, but time out. That is an interesting statement, right? In the quote, he's talking about the heroes, the engineers who have studied their system so much that they're in the moment, they can give you the recommendation, right? Those are the heroes.
Yes.
That's sort of the definition framing of heroes. But at the same time, we're going to shovel blame upon those same heroes who flew the thing and didn't know that the thrusters were going to keep failing, right? Does anybody
Wait.
see the little bit of a? Were people like that silenced? I guess is that the right way to say that?
What heroes are you talking? You're not talking about Butch and Sonny, are you? It's not their fault.
No. We're talking about
the engineers.
No. The engineers who knew their system front and back and could make the decision in the moment that A, hey, hands off, let's reboot the thrusters and keep going. B, the safer thing is to continue on to the space station. And then C, at the end of the day, they didn't have the confidence to put the people on board, but they still brought the capsule back home safely. Right?
I wouldn't call NASA flight operations. No, I don't think that's really negligent on their part, to be honest with you. So, Das, this is what I was trying to say. The analytical model, the thermal analytical model was wrong. Okay, your thermal analysis was no good.
Right.
I really don't understand why it was no good. These thrusters that Starliner flies are derived from the space shuttle. They're the same RCS design.
Yep.
Just albeit in a cylinder instead of on a shuttle-shaped spacecraft, right? The crazy thing about this, dude, is that they had problems in the 90s with this exact thing happening, blowing poppet seals on these thrusters.
Right. With
the shuttle, and they fixed it. And then we flew Starliner again with shuttle-derived hardware. Same problem happens.
Right.
Dude, I would probably blame the analysis here because the people in flight operations, the engineers, the flight controllers that are there are relying on those engineers they're relying on their analysis to be right, and it wasn't.
Right.
I don't think it's flight operations problem. In fact, I think flight ops has done more good for Starliner over the last 3 or 4 launches than they get credit for. Flight operations saved the OFT-1 capsule from spinning out of control.
Yeah.
Because of that timing mission. I wouldn't say it's their fault. I'd say it's the people that did the thermal analysis.
I didn't say it was anybody's fault, right? In the conversation always deflects into another direction. Like, should they have flown it in the first place? Was it safe? Did we know about it happening from shuttle? I don't even really agree that there should have been people on it, right? I separate that from the story that's sort of told about how hair-raising it was as they were approaching the station versus watching the video and sort of seeing how things were playing out from the frame of reference that we could see. The capsule not spinning out of control, sort of serenely floating towards the station, losing a thruster, and then it getting rebooted and it coming back up because the people who were down on the ground said, that's the thing to do, that's what you should do. And then, sure enough, it worked out that way for most of the thrusters. Again, all of the other things, I think this is so mixed up because of who it is, because it's Starliner, all of these things. But I personally can completely separate, should it have been flown with people, and did they do enough due diligence before they decided to put people on it, with the exact recounting of what, quite frankly, NASA had already told us in all of the press conferences beforehand when they were talking about thrusters failing and getting rebooted and all that sort of thing. Like,
I know what the solution is, by the way, for Starliner.
What's the solution?
Canards. Fixes
Thrusters
everything.
on canards. So if you put the thruster on a canard and one thruster fails, you could just turn it around and create another thruster out of it that goes in a different
There you go. See? Solution. Boeing, hire me. No.
It's a tough subject to talk about, and I am 100% playing a little devil's advocate here. I have never been in the situation where I'm trying to dock a spacecraft with a space station before. Right. So exactly what happened, EJ, I'm getting there. Exactly what happened. Like, I wasn't there and it wasn't my life on the line. I'll be the first to tell you there. Right. But I do sort of like compartmentalize that and say, now, wait a second, what really happened? Was there new information here beyond the, and I don't even mean to discount it because it shouldn't be discounted, somebody's personal visceral reaction. Right. But the experience that somebody went through versus the technical information that NASA had already given us, and was it really a bombshell, or was it the same story that NASA had already told us, retold in a different way, that sort of got your hackles up a little bit more, that got your blood going a little bit more, right?
These are direct quotes from Barry. He said, I don't think we can get home even if we tried to at this point in time, when they had 4 thrusters blow out and they lost, they had the loss of control. Like,
is that what he said? Wait a second.
Yeah.
No. Was it? Okay, y'all help me out because I thought that I read it, and if I read it the wrong way, was it, I don't think we can get home? or I don't know if it's blah, blah, blah.
Here.
I don't
let me
actually
get
know
it.
off the top of my head which one that was.
Okay,
Here,
so
Somebody
you
can
got
grab it.
I have the quote.
yeah,
if
I got
not.
it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, go, Sora, do it.
The quote was, quote, "I was thinking we might not come home in this spacecraft. We might not." Is that the part we're talking about, or is it a different one?
No,
EJ?
that's we might not come home in the spacecraft. Like
No,
after
it's
they've
what's on
docked.
the screen, boys.
Yeah.
Oh, that part.
It's what's
at
on the screen. I don't know if we can come back to Earth at that point. He's talking. The context of that is talking about loss of control. I don't know if we
Right.
can. And a matter of fact, I'm thinking we probably can't. Like, that's a direct quote. And I understand people take quotes out of context. That's not out of context. You had a loss of control during RPOD. That is a big no-no.
Right.
Like that. I don't think that's not sensationalized, dude. That is your chief test pilot saying something is very wrong.
Right?
Like, that's a big deal. That's not
in the actual
not great,
article.
man.
just for context, from the quote from Butch, I don't know if we can come back to Earth at that point. I don't know if we can. And matter of fact, I'm thinking we probably can't. So there we are, a loss of 6 degrees of freedom control, 4 aft thrusters down, and I'm visualizing orbital mechanics.
Right.
So that is the reference point that he's discussing.
Yeah, I get it. So this is what I'm trying to get at, and I know that people don't want to understand it. That's somebody's experience, right? Versus the technical reality of the situation they were in. And the experience was, man, I don't know what I can do, and it's my job to drive this thing right now. And that's not a great feeling. But then they rebooted the thrusters and it worked fine. Right?
I understand what you're trying to say, dude. If this was anyone else but the guy flying the ship, I'd probably agree with you, But I think the guy, that's keeping the ship quite actually on an even keel, I think that should count towards something. I mean, they put test pilots in these things for this reason
that's why
because
we're
of the
talking
feedback,
about it.
right?
Like, that's why we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
But again...
I think this very much, if you want a story here, this very much speaks to NASA being able to problem solve stuff. Like, once again, shout out to flight operations. I really don't think JSC gets enough credit for that.
Right.
But like I said, they saved OFT-1. OFT-1 was like, that story is not told, right? OFT-1 was like minutes away from death, and they saved that capsule and actually got Calypso back on the first Starliner flight in November of 2019. I don't think flight ops gets enough credit, but also, dude, it's the guy flying the thing. Like, the pilot he's in control. He has the controls. What his feedback there, I mean, even if it's in retrospect like that, he's just recalling what he was thinking at the time. I think that should count for something. Like, and dude, once again, I know the capsule's just kind of floating around there serenely. Everything's fine. It looks okay. Dude, this is a huge, you dodged a bullet here. You dodged a bullet. Like, I don't think it can be understated how close. And once again, shout out to Starliner's control systems, because if the control systems are even tweaked just a little bit off, right, they blow out those thrusters completely, and then and then you're actually stranded, right? Whoever did the control systems for the thrusters, good on you, like, good job. But also, if the chief test pilot is saying stuff like this, like, oh man, I don't know if we can get out of this one, dude, pretty big red flag there. That's, you could say it's sensationalized, but I think that speaks volumes about the state that Starliners, at least the thrusters, are in right now. It needs more time in the oven, so to speak.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, by the way. Like, 100%, they are supposed to do another flight, right? And I would be really surprised if there were people on board it before this was all sorted out.
Now, here's the thing, dude. I agree with you that there is a lot of sensational space news articles about this out there. Not space news, not the organization.
It's what sells, dude. You sensationalize it, you dramatize it. That's going to get you a book deal. That's going to get you clicks. That's going to get you views, and that's what pays the bills, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, guys, how many articles did we see over the past 8 months about they're just stranded in space? Like,
that's what got the clicks on that story. Regardless of the technical actual situation, that's what got the clicks.
I get what you're trying to say, dude. That's absolutely a thing. But in this, I'm saying, like, in this particular regard, if your chief test pilot of the thing is saying, like, okay, we got a problem here, I don't think that should be ignored. I don't think that's sensationalist. I think that's actually, like, if he's given that feedback and more, he's given that feedback publicly on the record.
Yep.
With a news organization, that's pretty damning. I don't think that should be ignored. You know, astronauts are kind of tight-lipped about this stuff, right? Like,
yep.
Him saying, like, okay, we got a big problem here. I mean, I think that's very telling. That's all I'm saying, man.
I think it's very telling as well. I think it's just telling us different things.
All right, sure.
Hang on.
Look,
let me see if I can steer this conversation back.
Are you steering the conversation back?
I'm trying to steer the conversation back. Fly it back with all 6 degrees of freedom.
Yeah. Again, folks,
control, Sawyer.
We have. Oh, what is that? Is that Starliner successfully docked to the station? No. Look, the purpose here is to critically think about things, and one of the things that makes my eye twitch a little bit is sensationalized news coverage, and we saw it with the stranded stories. Right? And everywhere we turn, we get comments. Oh, they were stranded. They were this. Oh, they were almost dying. My mom thinks they were running out of food and water because of what the media was telling her. And it's like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Running out of food and water. Some people thought they were
wrong.
in the capsule by themselves floating in space. And then conspiracy theories are like, oh, well, look, where did all these other people come from? And it's because they were on the International Space Station the entire time, people. So every now and then, I have to personally step back and sort of critically think about this stuff and put it in these buckets and say, like, hey, how much of this is driving clicks and driving interest? Sometimes interest needs to be driven, don't get me wrong. How much of it is real technical? How much of it was hidden from us and shouldn't have been? How much of this was just, oh, they weren't telling us the whole story because it was worse than it was, or they were worse than they told us it was, right? Like, unless you talk through these things, you get really bad at just regurgitating the same information or the same beliefs, the things you want to hear. And it's helpful for everybody to think through these things. So I'm not getting on Starliner for the next flight. I'll tell you that much right now. Clearly, they have a ridiculous amount of stuff that they need to do if that thing's going to fly again. It is just very useful to sit back and say, hey, where's this really coming from? Like, let's think about this a little bit. And I appreciate chat going through the exercise. I know y'all give me a lot of grief in chat, but that's okay. It's still important to think through this stuff and not be embarrassed to talk through some of the ideas and stuff like that. That's what I have to say about that.
And of course, the most important opinion is on my screen right now.
Oh, it's Jake.
Yes. Jake, what is your opinion on the state of Starliner and the quotes from Butch and his the thruster issues?
Jake is like, I would never lose 6 degrees of control freedom. Like, you could drop me off of a ladder and I would land on my feet.
I think he's saying, let me just start batting at it and eventually it'll get back on the correct track to dock. That's his suggestion. Right, Jake? Cool. That's what we'll do next time.
All right. Let's see here. We do have more stuff to talk about. I hope there's a lot of super chats telling me that I'm crazy and I wasn't watching the same Starliner mission as y'all. But let me go through some of this.
Dude, you kicked the hive, man. Kick the hornet's nest. They're pissed at you.
Honestly, yeah. EJ, sometimes the hive needs to be kicked. Like, I don't want us to always just fall into the same believe the story, go with this one narrative. Like, I think through stuff. And sometimes when you think through it, you end up here, you end up there, whatever. It's still really interesting, and I don't think there's anything wrong with technically thinking through stuff like that, right?
No, not at all.
Peter Moss.
This is a great discussion. I'm having
Avocado
fun.
Can.
Oh, yeah.
With Starship launch. Excitement
fantastic.
Guaranteed. We did get some super chats. Peter Moss, thank you for the $5. A tip from Austin Skirvin here. EJ, give us Zoidberg, Kevin, and Yak impressions. You're really kilting it. Are you monkey, EJ? Do you just dance on demand? Is that how this works?
Well, how much was that? How much was that?
Oh man, it's $5. How much of a Zoidberg does $5 give you?
That gets you about this much, my friend.
Enough for a cup of coffee for Zoidberg, apparently.
Doesn't even get the whoop, whoop, whoop. There,
another
okay,
one.
You get that.
Another one with Peter Moss. Peter Moss saying, we know an out-of-control spacecraft trying to dock with a space station looks like. Remember, there was the Progress spacecraft that collided with the Mir space station and put a hole in the station sub. We have seen like that. We've seen Soyuz dockings go awry and need manual control and back it off and then come back in. I'm going to fly it manually, right? We've seen Soyuz on the Poisker Piers, whichever module, go boing, and the whole station shake, right? We've seen stuff like that. You are correct. Like, it is experiences you want to make sure that you're careful with, and it certainly affects the people who live through the experience, right? Ethereal Swordsman. Well, I made it after all. Got sent home from work. But the good part is at least I get to be here to inflict a little chaos. There we are, Ethereal. Thank you so much. That was a tip as well.
I don't think we need the help today, but more is welcome, Ethereal. More is welcome, please.
Yes.
It is all fine. Alex in the back channel saying, note, the progress that hit the Mir station was not, in fact, out of control. The cosmonauts were doing a manual test drive and lost visual of it, so they had good control, but they didn't know where it was.
Yeah, pilot running off,
right.
not a lot of sleep, getting frustrated, lost visual, and yeah, that was right.
There you go. Phil says, Das, you're downplaying this. EJ is right. Sorry, you don't have to apologize. Like, it's perfectly fine. That's why we talk through this sort of thing. I don't need an apology from anybody. Peter Moss. Wow, Peter Moss's name keeps chopping up over here. This was an Apollo 12 set SCE to aux moment here. Curious. EJ and I could probably, all three of us, not just EJ and I, could probably talk about that. If you're not clear on the backstory of set SCE to aux, lightning strikes the spacecraft during launch. Lightning strikes the he's got the SCE to aux keys. Nice. Lightning strikes the rocket during launch. Weird error code pops up, and one engineer in flight control remembers a simulation where they got that weird error, and they're like, no, just set SCE to aux and keep going. And because that one engineer had known their system front and back, you're absolutely right, Peter. This is very much an SCE to aux moment. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to open the can of worms again. But did they really know the systems that much, or were they turning it on and turning it off again, just hoping that it would work? It's like
they've done that many times in rocketry before, and it continues to work.
Is that okay, though, right? Is that okay?
I don't think that's okay at all.
Wizard Uli, I'd love to talk about this one. DAS probably has no intuition above inertia. When ESA's ATV was docking, they were in all their Soyuzes suited up as AF, as far as I remember, I think that is. Starliner's not ATV, but it's not light either. Wizard, I don't know what you're talking about there. I'm super curious about no intuition above inertia.
Say that one more time, dude. I got to hear it again.
It just says DAS has no intuition above inertia.
I think it's supposed to be about inertia. The fact that the ATV had a little more of a less than gentle docking system to it. So there are times where, as a precaution during docking operations, they would have them in their suits. So if something went wrong and they needed to zoom out of there, they could.
They could. All right. I think having a good intuition and understanding of how inertia works is one reason that I'm like, really? Like, anyways, Wizard, appreciate the support. Y'all, keep the comments going. I'm not scared of any single comment y'all could put over here. I've been on the internet for a long time. Greg Watson, the last one on the list here, in my humble opinion, they were lucky the failure happened on approach. If the failure happened during re-entry burn, this could all be guesswork looking at debris. Do we really think so, or does something like that sound like sensationalism? I guess a good question there is, how stable is Starliner during reentry, and do the thrusters, once it's in the reentry attitude, need to maintain it there? Is Starliner constantly trying to flip out of control, or once it gets into an aerodynamic sort of envelope, does it stay stable because of its aerodynamic properties and not the use of the thrusters? EJ, Sawyer?
Ballistic reentry with a capsule is not advised. Not advised.
Right.
A loss of control during entry certainly wouldn't be a good thing by any means. That would be bad. But okay, so if you think about it like this, all right, obviously that's going to be bad. But rendezvous proximity operations is the part that puts the most stress on the thrusters. So I think it would be a reasonable extrapolation that if Starliner made it up to the space station, didn't have any problems, docked to the space station, undocked from the space station, did its deorbit phasing, and then did had a problem during the deorbit burn, that would be very unlikely. The duty cycle, The duty cycle of the
Thank you,
thrusters hits
Jay.
the highest.
Good
Sorry.
grief.
Hey, it's me. What do you want? The duty cycle of these thrusters really only goes through gets put through its paces during rendezvous. So if you made it past that, if you could do RPOD, I don't think you'd see a failure mode there. But once again, I don't know. I'm just a guy that just laughed at duty, so I don't know. Take me. What you want from me? He said duty.
Oh, jeez. Yes, and now you've got chat saying he said duty as well.
Yes.
It was your duty
Both
to say
chats.
It,
Yep.
In
That's
any
right.
event, y'all, thank you for all the support. Again, keep it coming. Can't read every single comment because we got a lot of chat right there during that discussion. EJ, I have one more thing, and even Sawyer, you could be involved with this as well.
Yeah,
and I am going to open myself up to all sorts of heat on this.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Would it be possible in Kerbal Space Program?
I like where this is going.
It worked in Kerbal Space Program. To design a capsule like the Starliner, we know we could get pretty close to that. Put thrusters in the places where Starliner has thrusters, and then do an approach to a station in Kerbal, disabling the thrusters that failed during flight, and see how it feels. In a freaking video game, I get it, but just to see how it feels. This thruster failed, now it feels sluggish. Wow, you're right, look at that. You can really see how that feels sluggish now. And then this thruster fails, like, wow, all of a sudden, if I accidentally hit this button, I can put a rotation on this thing that I can't fix because the counteracting thruster has failed. Or if I get going too fast, I can't stop it because those thrusters have failed. Do we have that level of information, like a detailed timeline of exactly which thruster that points in which direction and acts with how much force failed at when in the approach, so we could see how it feels for ourselves? 100% understanding that nobody's life is on the line here, and it's a video game, and it's inspired by physics that are close enough that people seem to like it, right? Do y'all think that's possible?
In base or realism overhaul?
Whichever, because I'm mostly concerned about the feel, the weight of Starliner, the power of the thrusters, not overpowered thrusters, not overpowered reaction wheels, not all the gamification things that they have in there so people can play it, right? How would it feel thinking you're able to control that spacecraft with those failures?
Yeah.
They'd never let me in the Starliner. If I proposed this, they would never let me in the actual Starliner sim. It's like, hey, put me in the sim, and with no Starliner training or just basic Starliner, show me where the buttons are. Like, let those things fail and let me see how it feels myself. So Boeing's not going to let me do that, right?
No, I've been in the simulator and did it successfully. I'm sorry, what?
But did you have the failures? You need the failures.
No, this was a normal docking procedure. Sorry.
Yeah. Man.
I mean,
you could do it, EJ.
Dude.
You know you could do it.
Yeah, of course you could. The thing is that if you so we're going back to the article again.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Wilmore reported Starliner performed great during the initial phasing burns after parking orbit insertion, right?
So like nominal control is good.
Yeah, he reported it like it flies great, it flies excellent. And then he reported that the response controls were sluggish during RPOD after it started blowing out thrusters.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Okay, so I'm going to speak Kerbal here for a second.
Which is fine, yeah.
So if we were going to make like a stock representation with all the thrusters pointing in the right directions, yeah, sure.
With similar forces in the mass and even the rotational inertia, you would need to take that into account because Kerbal doesn't do a great job of that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, we could approximate it to get it close enough, but we'd also have to know what thrusters on what axis were acting sluggish, and we'd have to go get at that thrust limiter thing, Das. I know that you hate those. You hate the thrust limiter.
No.
Slider.
That's exactly what you want. Like you would want to thrust limit it down so you don't have these overpowered gamified thrusters, right?
Yeah, but you know, say you have your RCS, right, and you put the RCS to 20, and 20 is your realistic approximation.
Yep.
When these types of thrusters start overheating, they do not produce as much thrust because you start melting the components that are, you start leaking, the poppet seals leak, and some of the explosion goes into the doghouse.
Yep.
Into your thruster blocks, which that's why they lost that thruster. They had a poppet seal.
And the computer shut down the thruster, right? Like the computer
shut
shut down.
It shut down,
exploded or anything. It just computer said, "Whoa."
One of them got about as close as you could get to doing that without actually doing that.
It wouldn't come back online, right? Like the computer safely shut it down and wouldn't let them use it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we'd have to also know where the degraded thrust was. What thrusters were overheating? What did they blow the poppet seal on?
Yeah.
Why was the control so sluggish? It's obviously not the fly-by-wire system unless there's a software change there.
Yep.
You'd have to simulate that, but yeah, of course you could. Kerbal isn't the best aerodynamics simulator, but it's a dang good physics simulator.
Yeah. When you get into
It's
inertias
really good at that.
and even orbital things, and Sawyer, that's where your account sort of comes into play. Is it RSS with a real-sized Earth, where the orbital curvature, let's use that for lack of a better term, is correct, and the rate of change in the actual orbit isn't the Kerbal rate of change. Kerbal is way too small to be Earth, right? But the gravity is all screwed up, and they just gamified it. So in a real Earth orbit, you have sort of more time to react than you do in a Kerbal orbit, which is smaller and things happen faster. I'm game. EJ, dude, like I would love to try that out. And it sounds like the big thing that we're really missing is, all right, on, off, this thruster failed at this point in time, sure. But if a thruster just gets squishy and is developing 50% thrust, 25% thrust, whatever, and it's a degraded performance versus an altogether shutdown, that's something that I wonder how much information we have on. Right?
Yeah, we could recreate it with the thrusters that fail, but we don't know. We're not going to know what thrusters were sluggish. Unless you guys know anybody at Boeing, and even if we did, they probably wouldn't tell us.
Do they have like the temperature graph of all the different thrusters that's been released or discussed or something like that?
Yes, they most likely do. I don't think they're going to give us that information though.
No, but I mean, it hasn't been released, right? Like
I don't think so.
They should have that information.
I hope they have that information. Let me put it that way. I hope they do.
Better.
Please.
Yeah. I'm super curious, and I will be the first to tell you that I would love to try that and do it live and just illustrate, like, here's what this actually means, y'all. Like, all of a sudden, look, the spacecraft starts to spin this way, and I can't stop it. And if it keeps doing that, it's going to end up upside down. Or the spacecraft starts to yaw or pitch or whatever like this. And if that thruster has failed, it's just going to keep drifting until the nose is out of alignment. I feel like that would give us a lot better appreciation for exactly how those things went down. Again, nothing you can do. You're not going to put yourself with a bucket of lava over your head or something and dump it on you if you fail the video game like that. Nobody's life would be in danger, so you can only really get so far, right? But anyways.
Okay, so are you going to be around for Flame Trench next week? Give me a week. I'll cook you up a Starliner.
Let me see here.
I want to be part of this.
That would actually be really interesting. The 11th.
I smell socials. I smell stuff for YouTube Shorts.
I can't commit to the 11th right now. I'll do it whenever, but I may not be able to be here on the 11th.
No.
Yeah.
You're the devil's advocate here. You have to be back. I'm not doing this without you being here.
Well, good. Yeah. We can wait for it until we sort of have the right time where we can. I would love to do it. I would absolutely love to do it.
Okay.
Also, Jack Meyer, stop sending me things of Nigel Thornberry in my DM.
Oh, good grief. A lot of people are like, I really want to be, somehow it's KSP, whatever. Yeah.
All right, fine.
Anyways.
Fine. I'll tool up KSP next week on the Twitch side of things. We'll start building it.
And as close as we could reasonably get it, right? And I
can
think
get you close.
People would have a lot better appreciation for exactly what that means. Like, if this spacecraft continues to drift this way, you can't fix it, and that is a crappy situation to be in, right? DOS Kerbal stream? What is this, 2016?
Yeah. Cody.
The good old days.
Don't we have other topics to talk about here too? No, I just want to go do this in Kerbal. But anyways,
I'll cook it up. I'll cook it up. I'll give you the craft file and everything.
Yes.
I'm totally game. Like I'm totally game, and I would love to use it to demonstrate. Like if this thing got out of control like this, here's why it's hair raising. Whatever you want to say, right?
Sure.
I feel like you could do a good job of that.
Oh, dude, I'll make you the craft file, guys. Not a lot of people know I have a 1-to-1 Kerbal scale. Kerbal scale to real scale to space shuttle, down to the thruster locations, and it flies exactly like the real one, i.e., terribly. So I'm good. I'm good at doing this. I'm good at this. We can make this happen.
And you still have the whole ISS too?
I have Space Station Freedom. Is that okay?
I mean, you know,
it's kind
we
of
have ISS at home. ISS at home. Space Station Freedom and Kerbal.
ISS at home is we have Space Station Freedom at home as the ISS. Real space fans know what I'm talking about. Freedom was so much cooler. Just saying.
But that was how I first found you, EJ. Was you were making a scale model of the ISS on Twitch in Kerbal? Yeah. That was how I first found your stream.
Oh, dude, you got to see the Freedom model. The Freedom model is the hotness, man. It's pretty good.
Ooh.
Nice. Shall we talk about the other topics that we have to talk about here?
There's other topics. Wait, what?
There is EJ exploding rockets. We have more topics to talk about.
Oh, I like those. We should do that.
Well,
I like this plan.
I don't like those, but I do like those.
Whoa, time out. Dude, hang out. So, folks, another thing to talk about, if you are around the YouTube or the social medias, previously, just less than a week ago, ESAR Aerospace, company out of Germany based in Munich, for the first time launches an orbital class rocket from European soil, I guess mainland European soil. Kourou down South America, different thing, right? That's a whole other continent. But headline on this, their first rocket that they launched, they actually did successfully launch it, and it successfully cleared the pad. Less than 30 seconds into flight, loss of control, had some engine problems, clearly visible on the live stream there, and the rocket actually aborted and fell into the ocean just next to the launch pad. In fact, for a little bit of time, there was some confusion as to whether or not it had fallen back on the pad or not, but ESAR really rapidly released a drone footage that showed the rocket clearly landing just off the side of the launch pad, a couple hundred meters away, right? So this is sort of a big deal. You know that we have the series Europe's Future in Space, right? We have all these different cool companies coming in, talking about European companies, European products, their satellite companies, their rocket companies, their spaceport companies. We had Saxavord on there even. This was at Andoya, absolutely beautiful launch pad out there in Norway. But we've been doing this Europe's Future in Space series, just sort of talking about, oh yeah, look at that. Sorry. Do you know how much work it takes to convince a rocket company to let you use that camera on a live stream? And
wait
appreciate
let
the ad run.
Doesn't have YouTube Premium?
Let the ad run. That's fine. Just we don't have to show it here. It's a big deal because it's a European company working on the actual class of the rocket here. It's about 1,000 kilograms to orbit. Didn't quite get it there, but it's sort of in line with the Firefly Alpha, right? Firefly Alpha, 1,000 and change to orbit. But look at the launch out there. It's like, it's not a glacier, that's a mountain in the background. The team's out fighting through days of snow to get this the cameras deployed. This track, there's the rocket losing control and aborting the engines, turning the engines off, and then ballistically falling back down again. And then a beautiful wide shot that does not include the launch pad there. That was a big deal for a European company using a European-developed rocket launching from mainland Europe. That's Norway. It's way up there. It's actually inside the Arctic Circle. EJ, Sawyer, how y'all feel about ESAR? Did y'all catch that live? Did you see the rocket go? How y'all feeling about European launchers?
Sawyer, teed up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I absolutely saw it. And I know this is going to come down to those people going, oh, well, they're going to call it a success, even though it was a failure, blah, blah, blah. This is absolutely a success. It did not come back down and crash on the launch pad. That's huge. It made it 30 seconds into flight. It was beginning to do its pitch down maneuver.
Yep.
That's amazing for a first flight of a first vehicle here First time launching from Europe, which is also spectacular to get a new point of access to space, especially for these European companies, rather than having to fly it out to the Cape or send it over by boat and risk, I don't know, damaging, say, vehicles that would need to then dock to the ISS.
Sawyer,
totally unrelated.
too soon. Jeez.
Woof. Woof.
Sorry. Anyway, back to ESAR. But that's absolutely stunning. And as you pointed out, shutting down the engines and proving that all of the safety features work on this vehicle too. I mean, did it make it to space? No. Is this spectacular that made it off the pad that far and proved so much of the vehicle? Absolutely. And I would absolutely see them flying again sooner rather than later.
Yeah. EJ?
Dude, I want to, we don't want to sit here and just agree with each other all day, but honestly, you got to give credit where credit is due. ESAR having the figurative stones to cast their first launch, have it end in a spectacular failure, and then just be like, all right, cool. Hey, we'll learn. We got this. Don't worry about it. I like that. I really do. That is the kind of mentality that you need to be a launch provider. Oh, it blew up. All right. Put another one on the pad. We got this. Don't worry about it. We'll learn from this. We'll make it better. It'll be better next time. I love it. I love that they have the stones to show this. It was a very public, very, very high profile launch. It exploded in their face, and they're just like, yeah, all right, cool. We got
in the ocean, not in their face. In the
it was in the ocean, in the Arctic Ocean, just off the side of the launch pad.
But as Sawyer was saying, the fact that they got past separation, cleared the pad on the first try, first attempt, cold turkey. This is not like a legacy company using heritage hardware. It is a totally new design, totally new rockets, totally new engines. The fact that they cleared separation is dang impressive.
Yeah,
it cannot be understated how impressive that is. That's really good. And I like how ESAR looks at this, Das. They just, all right, onward and upward, baby, let's go. That's very, very respectable. I really like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it really is. I can't say anything specifically about ESAR here, right? But you think about it, and the mentality of a company that has a launch pad and has a factory that makes rockets, right? And then think about the bottlenecks there. I have a factory. I plan to make more than one rocket. And so you get down to, well, how many launch pads do you have? Here, ESAR has a single launch pad there in Norway. That's straight there in public information. Think about other places and how many launch pads they may have, right? But knowing that you have more rockets behind this first one, and knowing that you're going to launch this first rocket and you're trying to get flight data, how do your initial systems perform for the first time you've ever done this thing, and getting it off the pad and the flight ending in such a way that the pad is still there and ready for the next rocket. It needs a little bit of repair or whatever for the next rocket, but you still have your factory. You still have the stable of rockets that you're building, and you're going to get the next one out there and put it on the pad and fly it again. I think a lot of people don't understand how important that is, like being able to hit the flight cadence, having another one in the magazine ready to go and do it again, and don't hit a 4-year roadblock because you had one mishap. Like, go to the next one, get the next one ready, get the next one, fly it, figure it out, fix the next problem. We see SpaceX do it all the time. SpaceX has sort of pioneered this, especially with the fact that they sort of like put it out there for us to see, right? But I read a bunch of comments on social media. I see people giving pushback like, oh, the rocket blew up and they call it a success. I feel like people that say things like that don't really understand there's still a factory. There's more rockets. The launch pad is there. Let's see how quickly they get that next flight on the launch pad, and let's see how that second flight, that third flight, that fourth flight go, right?
You know what the crazy thing about this is like if you cast your mind back to the early parts of the space program, the Air Force is launching Titan missiles, Titan 1 missile, like there's that famous footage of a Titan 1 missile doing the same thing, blowing up, like Vanguard, the Navy's Vanguard blowing up on the pad, Mercury Redstone 1 with the launch escape system shooting off. The press wasn't fair to NASA back then either. We're losing to the Soviets, we're losing the space race, this is ridiculous, but look what happened from that, dude. So, hey, haters gonna hate. Just saying.
Yeah.
If they're not even fair to NASA, like these commercial companies, like, you're gonna go pick a bone with them, dude.
EJ, the end of that clip. Did y'all see the end of that clip? I don't know if we can just cue up the end of the clip. Can Kevin fast forward? I think Kevin can. This is the drone footage there at the end of the clip. There. ESAR put that footage out like a couple hours after that occurred. It's not, it sits in for a month or something like that, and eventually it gets released or something. ESAR had that footage, the drone footage of that. Look at that.
It's crazy, dude.
Blowing up in the water.
You could see the fairing actually go through the water, hit the ground, hit the seafloor, right? And then the rest of the rocket popping. Like, you could see it do like a bunker buster into the water, which is pretty cool. Like, that's what I mean. It's cool. It's cool to look at. And, the fact that they're like, here, look, it blew up. All right, we got another one. We're good.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Not to call out any particular other space companies where they've had rockets kind of explode over waters near islands in Floridas and Turks and Caicos, and then we never see that footage anywhere. The fact that they put this out within the same day of this, it just goes to show the openness of some of these companies now, which is, I think, refreshing. Yes, I mean, they're private companies. They can choose what they do and don't show. But the fact that they're putting all this out there to the public and saying, look, Europe, we're working on this. You will have a launch vehicle that you can claim as yours launching from European soil within the European mainland area. I mean, that's exciting to finally have another country in on another continent, I guess, in this case, in on the game.
It's cool that just somebody has that gumption to work on something like that, right? Like that's a whole thing. But a quick disclaimer: as we were sort of watching that footage, a lot of that footage that was there on the ice cream, the live stream, not the ice cream.
Yum.
A lot of that footage, it looks like ice cream. It's cold up there. A lot of the footage there was coming from our very own NSF folks. We had DY's was out there. That tracking shot of liftoff was coming from DY's camera that DY's was pointing at the rocket. Brady Kinniston was out there as well. If you watched the ESAR live stream, you saw Adrian was there on the live stream interviewing the Julia, the person from ESAR themselves. NSF was running that live stream for them. We weren't taking a copy of their live stream and doing commentary over it. We weren't taking their camera and then just adding it into the rest of the show. A bunch of the cameras that were there sharing that launch with you were in NSF hands. Look, it's Adrian right there. It's the launch site in the background.
He did such a good job, especially after the thing like actually just popped. Guys stone cold delivered like, hey, this stuff happens, and then that was it, dude. Shout out to Adrian, man. That was pretty good. It's not easy. It's not easy when the thing blows up in your face,
Yeah.
And I'll even open it up to this, right? Folks in chat right now, you saw the live stream. What sort of feedback do you have about the way the live stream went? I'm curious because there was a live stream you got to see. That in and of itself is honestly really cool. But what did y'all think about the live stream? Fill me out with some honest feedback real quick.
I do have to point out, Rednemok saying, excellent NSF ert.
NSF ert. That is a Sawyer, that's for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Pat Lanks last asked, I was wondering what you'd done with DYs. It's like, yes, a few NSF people disappeared for some amount of time. We've got Adrian even looks like a Viking. Nice. Adrian stone cold.
Yes, we stole them and sent them to Norway.
I don't like the fact that didn't capture the explosion at the end in the initial live stream logic. That is very fair feedback. Companies certainly in control of what gets shown and what doesn't get shown on a live stream. Austin Skirvin, the live stream was good. All good. It went great. Bertoldi said, it was a little short, not much to go off of. Echo, I could take that feedback, a little bit short. Don't know why it ended like 30 seconds after the failure. Cheeseburger King, it's a company's live stream. Live stream was very good in my effort. Clock. Oh, Alex is complaining that the clock was in the wrong corner. Apparently, clocks are supposed to be in the top left, not the top right. I will refer you back to the company. Please submit that feedback to ESAR, Alex. Gwen Ever, it was cool to have a stream, but ended too abruptly. Gwen, I really do feel you on that. Like, I do appreciate that feedback there. Let's see. Was full okay? Okay, cool. The live stream ended as abruptly as the flight. Was great. Wish it didn't cut, but I get it. Obviously, Jack's been there. Jack has done work for live stream providers, haven't you, Jack? So you know how that sort of goes, right? More starting a little bit early. I'm seeing that one a lot. I'm taking feedback, right? I like talking to companies about what they can do better and worse and stuff like that with their live streams. So that's part of my reason for asking here. Let's see. A little stiff. Take a drink next time. More relaxed. All right, Chris. That was actually Chris. Felt like Chris. Wait a second. Adrian felt like Chris G after he went to SpaceX and is on live streams. He's lacking the charismatic voice. Outdoorsman show. That's some direct feedback there. I get you. Telemetry, callouts, RUD footage. Go, EJ.
Yeah, well, I mean, telemetry callouts and RUD footage would probably be good because I'll tell you this: going from sitting in your house, right, to out on an actual set with cameras in your face, lights in your face, the producers like saying things in your ear, that it is a totally different ball game. So what I'm trying to tell you is give us some time. Give Adrian some time. Trust me, he was good because I do this a lot. All right. Like I understand, like you get the robotic thing, like, you're like this the whole time because that is a totally different experience. But, I used to be like that when if you look at like some of the early NSF casts that I did, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with my hands.
A little stiff.
But you look at like the last flight that me and Gene did, like we were just going back and forth talking about stuff, and it's a totally different ball game. Trust me, you'll find your footing if you do it more. And I hope that Isar wants us back, Dots. Like I hope.
Hey.
Also, keep in mind the fact that he's trying to discuss this, and there is literally a plume over his shoulder of what was a rocket at one point. So,
dude, it is a totally different ball game when the thing blows up in your face. Like that is probably like not only is Adrian like hasn't done that before, but also the thing popped and is like right in your face. Like that is.
You have to be the first one to then get on the camera and say what happened and what to do from there.
Be that person.
Yeah.
Hey, let me grab this one real quick. This is from Dark Silver. A lot of people did not realize NSF was working for ESAR and not in total control of the stream. Dark Silver, I definitely am reading you on that feedback. That's something that we can do a little bit better. We have so much experience and we have so many people with skills in capturing rocket launches, right? Sometimes we're out there and we're doing the stream on the side of the road because y'all have supported us. Even before I was with NSF, I was doing my rogue launch broadcasts, right? And my Twitch stream would support me going out, and they'd pay my bills to get out there, and I'm down at the Cape and the rocket launches, and it's me and one camera, and it's like, no way, or me and EJ, like, go baby, go, right?
That's a good stream.
One place, and we have so much experience doing things like that, and we have that experience because y'all honestly let us do it. You support us in doing that. And we've taken that, and we have this portfolio of experience that we can then take to companies, and we can say, hey, do y'all need somebody who's tracked a couple of rockets and knows how to set a pad camera and can do slow motion remotes and all this different stuff? Guess what? This is what we do on a daily basis. Let us come help you out. And so when we're switching between those modes, like the fan-funded rocket enthusiast, let's go and do roadside rocket science rogue launch broadcast, right? And we switch into that mode of, hey, the company sees our experiences, sees that we can do this, and actually hires us to do that. I honestly think NSF can be a little bit more clear about when we're operating in one capacity or the other. So we've got some ideas on how we can clean that up and just make it really obvious that today NSF is here because ESAR let us have those pad cameras and put out remotes and be there with the tracking camera. And they've actually hired us for this purpose versus, hey, today we're here because y'all showed up and y'all let us go out there and you paid for us to go to Starbase, blah, 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 right? We've got some ideas. So in the future, we can be a little bit more clear about that. But
I'm still mad that you saw IFA and we didn't at the press site because you were on your own thing.
Look, Sawyer, I fully went out on that boat assuming that I was not going to see anything and I'd be like the one guy that didn't see it, right? You just roll the dice. And that's one of the cool things about our team. Like, we have enough people that we can spread out to multiple places and somebody's going to get a shot. Unless it's totally cloudy.
Thanks.
Anyways,
Yeah, guys, we'll find our footing. If we get the privilege of doing this more.
Yeah.
We'll find our footing. We'll get to the point where we are. It's just like right now. Because once again, I'll say this as somebody that like Das was saying. You went from Twitch streaming to being on an actual set with cameras and cameramen and everything in your face. It is a totally different ball game. Like, you got to get some time to find your footing. But if we have the privilege to do this more, we will not let you down.
Yeah. And this one too, Top Banana 48 says, I prefer the NSF journalism coverage rather than doing communication team contracts. When Adrian read the prepared failure statement, it didn't feel right. In Top Banana, that's why I think it's really important to do both. If I had to choose between no live stream at all and, hey, all right, there's going to be some limitations on what we can do, I want to show you all the engine bell cam. Right? I want to show you the flame trench cam. I want to show you that stuff. And if the alternate is, well, you don't get to see anything, or you get one camera that's 10 miles away and you can see the launch sort of go, versus having that deep access, it's a give and take. It's something that we really do have to think about it. But we want y'all to be cool with it. We want y'all to understand the difference, and we want to make sure we completely communicate it, right? If I have an opportunity to get you an engine bell camera or a payload camera or whatever, believe me that I'm going to show up and try to get you all that camera that we can share publicly. So massive thanks to ESAR for supporting that and actually letting us share these views from the Andøya spaceport up there. It was fantastic. But believe me, I'm going to come back and ask for feedback on how it sort of landed with y'all. And every time we do it, we'll do a better job next time. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm honestly really, really curious about seeing if there's any more comments here. And EJ and Sawyer, if y'all have anything else to kick in, like you'd rather have streams than no streams, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And guys, once again, I see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, we don't want you reading off of a cue card." What I'm trying to tell you is that it's not going to be like that for future launches. I mean, you find your footing as a commentator over time. You find your footing. You get comfortable, and once you get comfortable, you'll see more of that. Like I said, that just takes time. There's really no way to practice this. It's like rocket launching. Just do it. You just do it. It's just one of those. Yeah, you're right. Yes, you can. And,
I like the Dutch angle cam here, by the way. The rocket wouldn't
awesome,
fit.
Dude.
It wouldn't fit, so it's like Dutch angle cam.
We're not. Like I said, if we have that's what I meant when I said we have the privilege to do this more. You'll get to see the comment, or us as commentators come out of our shell. We'll be able to tell you this, and it'll be a lot more
on the live stream, live drone shot on the live stream. Right.
Pretty good.
I want live streams with live drone shots on them. That is fantastic. Like, I want to be able to show that to people.
Yeah.
So I do. I'm reading all the comments. I'm actually going to go through and read through here as well.
Like
it is definitely something.
Audio.
Yeah. It is something you prepare for, right? Like, even when we do streams ourselves, when we're covering a crew launch, we actually have an internal NSF briefing that we go through, and we remind everybody, like, hey, y'all, today this is a crew launch. Fram 2 just happened. There's a little briefing we put in, and we're like, just so we're all on the same page, how we're going to act and how we're going to respond if something goes wrong with this crew launch, right? You don't walk into any launch without a plan on how you're going to react. And when we're operating in that official capacity with a company, of course we're going to have a plan, and we're going to think through those things, right? I love the idea on the watermark. Like somebody saying you can put a little special watermark over there when you're in one mode or the other, just so we know, and then make that clear. I like the ideas y'all are putting over here. So I do appreciate the feedback. We got to talk about Starship.
Appreciate it.
We got to talk about Starship.
Yeah. That
Shall
thing.
Is that what everyone's here for?
We
should mention, by the way, really quickly, before we move on to Starship, one topic that we do want to mention is that very soon we should have, hopefully, a new NASA administrator with Jared Isaacman's confirmation now set for April 9th.
Get the popcorn.
Scroll down. You're right.
10 a.m.
Isaacman.
Eastern.
Yeah. Oh, that is a whole thing. I know we've talked about that quite a bit, but it will be very interesting. I think across the board, it seems like a lot of the people in the enthusiast space, the space fans, the reporters and stuff like that, like across the board, there's a lot of people really getting behind Isaacman here, huh?
Yeah, a letter from
Good.
30 astronauts that was all signed by them. You've got bipartisan support, it seems like, for him. So hopefully this will be a quick and easy yes. But we'll see.
Don't say that.
They've got a whole day for it on Wednesday the 9th.
One way to find out. It'll be really interesting to see what comes out in that sort of confirmation hearing, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it is worth noting that there is an entire video in the works talking about Jared Isaacman, what he might be able to do at NASA, and what the deal would be with NASA's budget with him in charge. So stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to NSF, make sure you are, so when that video comes out, you're all in the know.
Nice. Got the old follow us on the socials too, so you're in the know of what, et cetera, right? So
what? Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, and TikTok?
Thank you. Just bat
Bless
the
you.
cycle there. Are we actually on TikTok?
Yes, we are.
Oh my gosh. All right. Starship updates. The big news in Starship update is not only did Booster 14 perform its static fire, shortly after that, SpaceX comes out with a tweet saying that they were working on reflying that booster. So a lot of us took that as confirmation. Look at the shotways, though.
Oof.
Oh, it's
Good
awesome.
night, Irene. Took that as SpaceX's confirmation that Booster 14 was, in fact, going to be reused as part of Flight 9. Still some testing to go here. The ship that's involved still needs to get some of its testing done, but see, just keep playing this over and over again. It's fine. The static fire there, what was the stat on the static fire? Out of 33 engines in the static fire, 29, I believe, were reused engines. Pretty sure that's right. Somebody's going to tell me that's right. Chat, tell me that's right. So not just that they've taken the booster and then slapped a whole bunch more engines on it, like brand new engines, and fired again. A large portion, the majority of those engines were reused engines from the first flight. So
29 of its 33.
Nice. I got it right. I do read the articles. I do. 29. Yeah, 29. Such a great angle of the static fire. You got it, because there we actually put some of those cameras specifically in the lee of the legs. And then we switched cameras during the live stream, showing you them. But we'll always get back with the replays shortly thereafter again. It is just fantastic to be able to share that with you. Acting in our capacity as the journalists out there reporting at Starbase. Oh, it's not us. That's a drone shot. It's a little higher altitude than we have.
We're not flying
view.
cameras on kites anymore?
I mean, we could be. We should be.
Could we do that? Is that like doable or?
Oh, we've done it, EJ.
We had kite cam.
We did have kite cam
What?
footage. Yes.
When was this?
We put like a GoPro on a kite and like flew it at Starbase and had like close-in aerial footage of the launch pad. I say close-in; it's still a wide-angle lens GoPro, right? But that was a thing. Kite cam was a thing. So I think the big question here. Well, before we get to the big question, we were talking about mishap investigations and paperwork being closed, right? Here also, SpaceX or the FAA has closed the mishap investigation for Flight 7, right? Saying that, what did they say in the mishap investigation, like report, that they had implemented the corrective actions for Flight 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Flight 8 mishap is still open. They closed Flight 7.
Go, kid.
They closed Flight 7. They know what's wrong, but the Flight 8 mishap is still open. That's it.
Yeah, but they said that they implemented the corrective actions for Flight 8.
Oh, that part. Yeah.
And greetings from the future. The corrective actions might not have corrected the action, right?
Yeah,
they corrected something.
SpaceX identified 11 corrective actions to prevent a reoccurrence of the event. The FAA verified that SpaceX implemented corrective actions prior to Flight 8. And we don't know
Flight 8.
We don't know if that was the same issues, the same corrective actions caused the same thing. They haven't said, but yeah, some of those corrective actions may not have been so corrective, it sounds like.
I mean, you got to try something, and I guess a corrective action may not 100% solve it, but the way you figure out that your corrective action didn't solve it was by putting it in there and flying it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I
said this once, I'll say it again. Yeah, I said this once, I'll say it again. Where's the test stand to do full duration Starship burns? They don't have one. The best test stand here in this regard is to just fly.
Yep.
Fly the thing. Flight data is king.
And that
Best
orientation, with
test.
that altitude, with that amount of, I guess you could do the tankage. You could put it on a stand, and you could take the tankage down to a certain level.
And to be fair, Flight 8 made it further. Not much further. But it made it further.
And I mean,
made it further.
They did the minute-long static fire before it as well, so they tried to recreate it as best as they could. I don't know if that was testing any of the things that they had done as corrective actions from Flight 7 or not, but I mean, technically they tried. But at the same time, if you have 3 failures in a row, I get it's rapid iteration, but at what point does it become, we have a more serious problem here?
They need to issue some corrective actions for the previous corrective actions.
Yeah.
Now, like, those responsible for the corrective actions have been corrected, or whatever.
They've been sacked.
Correct.
Not too funny, because there were some job postings there, EJ, after the last.
Yeah, I saw. They're looking for a propulsion fluid and systems engineer.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, that doesn't mean that they have clearance to fly Flight 9 yet, right? We still need a separate report that has a public safety determination saying public safety wasn't in danger, yada, 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 or the Flight 8 investigation, blah, blah, blah. Like, that still has to be closed out. But at least making forward progress there, closing out Flight 7's mishap investigation. So what does this mean for an upcoming Starship launch date for Flight 9? Chat, is it possible for this thing to fly in April? It's April 4th. What do y'all think? EJ? Sawyer?
I think last week of April, dude.
Last week of April. All right, hang on. Let me click my calendar. Like 27th through the 30th?
27th. Yeah. So 27, 28, 29.
I'm just looking
30,
at a calendar. You don't have to ring the bell for the calendar. I'm just reading the calendar. 27,
the NSF calendar?
Fight me. Leap years, Das. Leap years.
The calendar bell. Ding, ding. What?
That's
Sawyer,
the bell
what
to
do you
go get
think?
it at the shop. No, I'm kidding.
It's the bell from someone entering shop.nasaspaceflight.com.
Yes, to go buy the calendar. No. Now you can ring the bell. Go ahead. Now you can do it, Kevin. I'm going to say May. I don't think they make it in April.
Okay.
I think
April,
why not?
May?
I think May, because the fact that there's still so much work that we haven't seen done on the booster. We still need to see the static fire. We don't know what type of static fire they're going to be doing with it. Will they do another minute long? Will they do multiple? Will they have to change the way that they do the static fires to try and recreate the events? Again, they then still need to get either the closure of Flight 8 or, more likely, the permission to fly while the Flight 8 investigation is going on. I think by the time they do that and all the testing and everything on it and finally get the okay, I think we're looking at early May. I think it's going to be early May, but I still think that they're not going to be able to get all of that testing and proving done and write up the report and send it to the FAA and have the FAA then sign off on it all in 3 weeks.
Sawyer Spherical Cow says they may make it in May.
Ooh, that was good.
That got an ooh from Sawyer. Nice guy.
Yes.
Sawyer, I think you're just being a
road from
that
the
was a
peanut
good one,
gallery.
Spherical Cow. All around, that was a good one.
We've got some stats here. Ryan Weber in the back channel saying there's a road closure for possible rollout of Ship 35 on April 8th, going to Massey's to complete its test campaign. And then Ship 34 took 24 days to go from static fire to launch. So you do the math. April 8th plus 24 days does put you into May, doesn't it? Then again, they're always improving their time frames, right?
I is knows good at math, but yeah, that's May, I think.
Is it? It's 24 plus 8. I was pretty sure that was more than 30, so I figured I'd just go with it.
Sawyer, I think you're just being a Sawyer.
Oh, that's a new
Sawyer?
one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
That's
I got
Chris
that from
Bergen
Twitch
is
chat.
the naysayer because he talks to horses.
Oh no.
What
Alex,
have we started?
there was an abort in there. Alex wants everybody to know there was an abort in there, so it was 21 days for the first attempt. So the 8th plus 21 could get you to April 29th, right there in EJ's sort of spot.
Telling you, man.
I think SpaceX, they put the pedal to the metal, like they try to push this stuff forwards. not really seeing a lot of regulatory slowdown. Nobody's been complaining about regulatory slowdowns recently. So I'd be surprised if that didn't get cleared up well in advance. It really is down to SpaceX hardware readiness, right? Testing gets done, whatever corrective actions or changes that they've made, getting taken care of, launch mounts getting fixed up and that sort of thing. Looks like the static fire of the booster was pretty good. So it comes down to sort of the ship. You know me, I'd like to see the actual test sort of move forward. So is it going to get rolled out? How's the static fire going to go at Massey's? Then you dial it in. You get like one more little bit of information, right? And then it rolls back. And okay, well, when are we going to get a full stack? Is it going to be right before launch? Like what happens with that sort of stuff? It's possible we see something in April. It's possible it's early May. If you ask me, probably most realistic, it's early May, but I would not be surprised to see like aspirational dates to keep the pedal to the metal, because y'all know how that goes, right? And then if it slips a week out of that, or whatever, you're still moving ahead.
Okay, I think I see our itinerary for late April, early May coming into focus here.
Oh, God.
Here's how this is gonna work.
Oh, no.
They're gonna say it's gonna launch on the 30th. We're going to go down on the 28th, and it's going to launch on the 9th.
On the 9th.
It's going to be another 2 weeks in Starbase, man. I can see it coming. You heard it here first, okay?
Oh, no, 2 weeks at Starbase. Oh, what shall we do? I'm trying to twist my arm behind my back. You can't see it.
But you know what's going to actually happen, though, on top of that?
What?
We were talking about a certain Blue Origin earlier, and they mentioned that they were aiming for spring. So that would be May. So what are the odds that we have a repeat of the previous Starship one where we had Starship and New Glenn within 24 hours of each other? We have another 24-hour Starship New Glenn coming?
Big rocket race condition to see which one gets off the pad first. Good grief.
It's going to happen. I'm calling it.
Well, either way, we're going to be there watching. Like, how many people in chat right now watch Starbase Live every day? I always have it on my TV downstairs. EJ, you probably have it on a monitor there. Sawyer, you probably have it on a monitor there.
I'm watching it right now, dude.
Nice. You should be. On 2 different accounts, so we get double the views.
I have it on in the shop and in here, dude.
It's not really double the views. It's not like we only have 2 people watching, but
ain't my first rodeo, man.
In any event, watching what's going on at Starbase, all the things, here's people who watch Starbase Live. How many people watch the dailies? We just did another daily. They're not dailies. We call them Starbase Summary now. The things that I talk about looking for in the dailies. Is there scaffolding being removed? Are cranes being rolled out? Does it really look like they're digging in for work on Pad B that's going to take some time to clean up before they can launch? Are all of the ants sort of scurrying away from the launch pad where it looks like they're starting to clean things up and get ready for that launch attempt? We'll be watching those across the board. We write articles on it. We have Starbase Live watching it live. We've got the Starbase summaries, the daily videos that we put out twice a week roughly on what's going on there. We'll be putting it on social, time lapses of things happen, like all the different places that you can keep up with what we do.
I think the ants are going to Jack's Bacon still left in that camera.
What?
You said the ants, watch all the ants marching. I was like, yeah, the ants, the ones we talked earlier, bringing it full circle back to the bacon left in the camera from Flight 1.
So that's how we get flights to happen. We leave food near the launch pad to attract lifts away from the pad towards the food.
We gotta lure the Starship out of the high bays.
Now we're talking here.
I like this. Andrew Folk says, I did till the NSF logo burnt into the screen and the backlight died.
Oh.
Wow. We appreciate your dedication, your sacrifice to the cause of keeping up with Starship. Oh, jeez. Anyways.
Which logo, though? The old one or the new one? Or the mix of both because it's been on that long?
Yeah, we did change our logo to help people who were having LCD burn-in problems. That's not why we changed our logo at all. Let's grab a couple bits of support here. Probably some Starship label or Starship relevant support. Going back a little bit of time, Peter Moss, launch failure looks like the spitting image of the drunk Russian Proton, a guidance failure.
The ESAR launch.
Man, I'm not feeling like that was a EJ, was that the one where the thing was upside down and backwards or something?
Yeah, I mean that's what happens if you hammer in
It's like
the
spines
IMU.
don't fit, and you just nail the IMU upside down or
The
whatever.
it would be like control point down if we're gonna keep with the Kerbal motif.
Yeah, they literally, basically, the thing that tells
exactly
the
what
rocket
happened.
which way is up was installed so that up was
Was
down.
installed upside down. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
one went up for quite a while, so that's a good sign.
I don't know. That rocket, like that Proton, suddenly realized it's like, wait a second, I'm upside down, and that thing went whoosh, like really quickly and intentionally vectored its thrust and flipped itself over. I don't see the same thing in this launch. I don't know, right? Anyways, appreciate the support there, Peter. Did I get this one from Bitaford? I don't remember reading this one from Bitaford. It says 37 minutes ago. Bitaford said, I feel for Sonny and Butch. Second guessing their confidence to fly and return isn't fair. That's for sure. Besides, we never got a report from Boeing that the Starliner returned 100% safe. Enough said. Fair enough, Bitaford. Thank you for the support. Appreciate it. I get the heartfelt comments there. I agree. Like, I would love more information on exactly how that went. But we read Bitaford's name over and over every single stream here. Master Toy Maker did a super chat and said, huge props to NSF to be at the point of doing coverage for these launch companies. I think you mean like at the point, like we've increased our skill set and our experience enough that we can actually go out there and with some confidence say, hey, you need a rocket live stream, you need a rocket track. Like, guess what? We got people for that. We can do that. Really appreciated it. And it's because y'all supported us in getting here. And now we can bring you even more cool rocket launch footage that might not exist otherwise. Thank you very much, Master Toymaker. Russell Snodgrass. Whoa, hold up a second. I read Russell's name before I saw the amount. $100. NASA Spaceflight. Adrian and the team turned in an awesome first effort. I really enjoyed the stream. Keep up all of your good work. Russell, we see Russell's name over here all the time too, y'all. We really do appreciate the support there. Thank you so much for the $100. I don't know why you had to put my name for like my face full screen when I said $100 like that.
I like the way you said $100.
$100. Thank you for the support, Russell. You just get those names. You get those names you see over and over again in the chat, and we can do what we do because y'all are there supporting what we do. Telstar gifted a membership. Telstar also said, put Danger Van near the build site to lure ships out. I don't know why they would be attracted to Danger Van, but anyways.
Because the concrete, it pulls the concrete on them towards it.
But that's the launch pad. Like, we don't want to attract the launch pad itself. We want to attract, like, you know.
It is the flame trench. I mean,
He says the thing.
You sure?
Flame trench. And the last one here, y'all, Ethereal Swordsman, you must have saw that I was reading these support messages because you did a tip right there. Said, so, idea, they should make Starship fueled by liquid fluorine and liquid lithium? Maybe liquid hydrogen too? Bonus points if there's chloride, trifluoride, and maybe what?
This guy rocket fuels.
That's an interesting idea.
Nice.
Wow, you got the Kevin zoom in effect on that. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I need the question marks above my head, like the meme with the question marks above my head.
Or the math flying in front of your face with all the calculations.
Math, yeah, this sort of view with the calculations going in front of your face. Anyways, across the board, y'all, thank you for the support there. Let me check in. Did I miss any questions? I've been sort of soloing the questions and stuff here. Did we miss talking about anything, EJ Sawyer?
I'm just thinking about liquid fluorine and liquid lithium now. You want liquid hydrogen in there too? You want tri-propellants, huh?
Glutton all right. For punishment.
I mean, dude, don't underestimate fluorine or trifluoride. They're great oxidizers. Like
fluorine's pretty
better than LOX.
Fluorine, yum.
Yeah.
Oh
geez.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can make some spicy propellants with those.
There's something about electrons that really want to be somewhere else on those things, or like holes in their electron cloud or something. They're like, what the heck? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
In any event, that's like.
Does it glow? With that? What color would that glow?
I don't know, but I would like to see this.
It would glow crazy.
Make this happen.
So whatever color crazy is, that's what color it would glow.
Rainbows, yes, color rainbow.
Yep.
Let's see here. Let me read some random things here. Tagging us in chat. NASA Spaceflight. Is food used to attract the rockets, or is it a sacrifice to the rocket gods?
Yes.
Mostly bacon is required to keep the rocket photographers and videographers fed and mobile when they're trying to get ready for the launch. Maybe too much bacon slows us down a little bit in the end, but you know.
No, never. Never too much bacon, just like there's never too much cheesecake, right?
Idea for a series, Hit the Road with Jack.
Sawyer.
A series of ride-alongs with Jack to Starbase in the rover.
Yeah, I love how you just glossed over that. But anyway, go ahead.
I did. I was just moving right along, Sawyer.
I got the cheesecake, bro. I got you. That was a lot of cheesecake that night,
I don't
dude.
want my door to ring. There to be like cheesecake DoorDash at my door or something, all right?
Yeah.
Isn't there discussions with Jack to maybe do a drive-through down Starbase? Isn't that something that's being discussed? Maybe, Leak?
We didn't have a chance to do that last time. We said we would do it. I've talked about it on the dailies where we do like a daily where we're driving around. And EJ, you have the truck kit too, don't you?
Yep.
So we could like drive around Starbase and have like a roving flame trench where we drive around or somebody drives us around. Clearly, we wouldn't be driving. So we could pay attention to the chat.
Yeah, we've had the provisions to do it the last couple of times, guys. It's just
time.
There's really no excuse because we were down there for 2 weeks last time. There ain't no excuse for that. But yeah, if I want to make it a thing to get some. If we get some downtime, we will just put the camera on the dash, get some backward facing cameras, and we will drive around.
Go around and drive
Starbase.
around.
Yeah, we got to do that. It would be really fun. We
really should. It's always like schedule uncertainty and then other things we have to do and then crew rest. Like you go down there for 2 weeks and you're running all over. We do take days to chill out a little bit, right? It's just tough to get done. By the way, Gwen Evers says a series following Jack's Land Rover breaking down. EJ needs to be there for that one.
Yeah, I fixed a lot of things on that truck. I still got things to fix, and I think about this sometimes. Like I walk into my shop, I'm like, I should fix the tail door. Oh wait, that car is not near me. That car is not near me. That's right. Yeah, it's like 2,000 miles away.
There was also a cooking stream apparently. EJ, even that, we need to send EJ with like a live stream assistant, intern, camera person, whatever, so that EJ can be fixing things, and then someone whose hands are not covered in axle grease can operate the cameras and like live stream that. Maybe there's like a members live stream or something, huh? Twitch live stream.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yes, by the way, that bacon cooking stream with D is still one of my favorite members moments. If you're not a member, you need to join just for the bacon.
The bacon cook-off.
Yes.
Like, different. Did they boil bacon or something? Microwave bacon.
Added wasabi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, what? What?
Uh-oh. It's
Are they
time.
really rolling us out?
There's music. Really? That's a good way to talk about what is coming up next. It is now the end of the flame trench. It's time for the exhaust gases to exit and make their way into the rest of the world, billowing off into plumes, being driven by upper-level winds to settle in nearby communities or blow out to sea. Whatever you got. What we have over here is a countdown to the next This Week in Spaceflight. That is our weekly show, our weekly news article. News article?
Am I in Severance right now? Look at that countdown. What is going on over there?
It's honestly better than most.
Yeah, you know what? That's true.
It's like the ESAR countdown. When did ESAR get a countdown for premieres?
Are we in the Matrix?
Influencing.
What's going on here?
It's coming up in just a couple of minutes. Massive thanks to everybody supporting what we do. Massive thanks to our members, too. Kevin thinks I'm going to be able to read some of these. My eyesight is not that good. I'd need like a 60-inch screen and blow this up full screen to be able to read these.
Yes, I got this.
Oh, you got it?
I got this.
Oh, no.
I'll read all of them right now. I'll read them like 20 times fast, and it'll be about a second. Ready?
Do it.
There you go.
Slow it down, rewind
seriously,
it, you'll hear your name.
Yes.
Yep, that's right.
You'll watch more live streams like slow motion in reverse. Watch videos in any event.
The walrus was Paul.
Folks, our flame trench for today over in this corner, Sawyer Rosenstein. Sawyer, always a pleasure being here with you.
Always great to be with you too, Das. It's great to have this crew back. This is a really fun flame trench. Thanks for having me.
Good deal. And in this corner, there's not really corners, we're just in a line across the screen. It is Mr. EJSA.
Put me in, coach.
Being the ding there. Make sure you find EJ over on Twitch. Twitch. EJ streams every single day, does all sorts of video gaming, science, engineering stuff. That is his bag over on twitch.tv/EJ_SA. EJ, always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a privilege being on here, man, and it's a privilege being on here with you guys. And Chad, we'd like to have some fun here, but I'm really, really honored to be on here. It's a fun time, and thank you for letting us do it. I appreciate it.
Always, always. Folks, here at the end of the show, my name is John Galloway. You may know me as DOS. Sometimes when I respond in the comments, I put -DOS. So you know that it's me down there if you're responding to a video or something. But across the board, we always appreciate you hanging out with us, talking about the good topics, talking about the bad topics, the controversial topics, whichever way they are. We're here to talk with you about it, right? Because if we don't talk about it, we're not going to have a good appreciation of it. And I am still here to try and fly a failing Starliner live and see if I can do it, or if I overestimate my silly video game experience in controlling capsules. We appreciate y'all's support. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And I think now we can send them over to This Week in Spaceflight. Make sure you watch this. Go see what earrings Alicia has on this week. We put so much work into the news summaries. But that is going to be the end of the show. We will see you nerds later.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting down to SPD off. Say again, SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the